Hello, everybody. It's time for the Crendor Noble WoW Deep Dive Lore Session, or Lore for Noobs. I don't even know what I'm going to call this. This is like the most involved I've ever been in our lore discussion. So
This time around, we're beefing. Yeah, this time around, we are serious. Yeah, we're going at each other. We reacted towards one another. Yeah, it's on, man.
Yeah, because I made a video after I played Warcraft 3, which blew up more than I thought it would. I was just kind of like, I'm going to make some, assumptions or like some observations and post them out there. I didn't realize it was going to like, numerous people reacted to it. A lot of people were watching it, and I was like, man, maybe I should have put more thought into this before I put this up. But you reacted to it, and then I reacted to you, of course. So that was fun. But just in case nobody knows who you are, you can tell the people.
Right, hi everybody. I'm Noble, and I've been talking about the Warcraft lore for the last 10 years, where on a weekly basis I cover pieces of the story. And I've known Crendor for a really long time. Crendor's been a big inspiration as to why I actually started content creation. So when Crendor puts up a video and he's like, hey, I've got takes, I got opinions, you take that seriously and you start reacting to it, which was a lot of fun to do. And very much worth a video to check out, because you say like, I wish I thought more about it, but you make really, really good points.
Well, thank you. I mean, the points, I guess the main points that I made in that, I'm glad I put those out there, but it's more like my examples of those points. But that's fine, because today we got some great examples from the current patch that I'd like to go over. So it's
remix. Yeah, we do.
And so this whole patch, so we're gonna have a non-spoiler and a spoiler section. All right, for people that don't want that. So I want to get caught up first on like the rundown of this expansion, because part of my problem is I tried to talk about the modern lore from Midnight, but people are like, Crendor doesn't even know what he's talking about. And I'm like, I don't. That's part of the problem. That's why I need you here to like fact check me and like bring this all, to fruition, because it's like I mentioned in my video, it's so hard to get caught up on all this lore. And when I played through Midnight, I didn't pay that much attention, to be honest. I paid some attention, but not like full, I wasn't like reading quests and being like, ooh, what's this thing? But there are a couple things I wanted to bring up with you. But to get it all started, why don't you give us the WoW Midnight kind of brief rundown synopsis?
Right. And also to that point, by the way, where you say, like, I don't pay that much attention and the story is hard to grasp, I've said this as well. There's value in that. Like, I think you are a better representative of the majority of the player base compared to someone like me, who has been around and like keeping up all the lore. So I would say that there's actually value in those takes. And when it comes to a rundown of Midnight, in essence, Zolotov gained the power to go for the World Soul of Azeroth. That's what she wants. We don't exactly know why she wants the World Soul inside of the planet, but she wants it for some reason. And we've seen people like the Jailer, who wanted to rewrite the universe in the name of death and then dominate it. We've seen the Titans that want the soul to bring order to the entire universe. And now we got a Zolotov, presumably for power, but that is a presumption, we don't know for sure. She got the power, she goes for it, she sets her sights on the Sunwell, and miracles happen. We're able to push her back, we're able to fight back against her plans, until ultimately she still succeeds. She corrupts the Sunwell, and in the end, she manages to go wherever she was able to go. Like, she goes down into the Sunwell together with all the Void power and forces that she pumped in there. Illyria and Tyrellian also fell down, whereas Sylvanas made a quick pop out of the maw, scared Zolotov away, and that's where Zolotov went. So that was the introduction of 12.0. That was like the start of Midnight. Ever since then, we've been dealing with the aftermath. So there's a power vacuum with Zolotov gone, and her forces are still around. So we're dealing with like Ethereals and the Dominar. We've dealt with those, we followed them, and we've taken care of them, if not still running. And then for 12.1, the Curse of Ulatek, there is trouble in Zuluman, and we had to rise up and go there, while presumably, again, because they don't make massive mention of this, which I personally find a shame, like a small dialogue where they mention like, oh, we're researching a way to follow Zolotov, or where she went, or this or that. That didn't really happen, but presumably we're trying to find a way to go after Zolotov while dealing with the immediate threat in Zuluman.
Okay, that's pretty good. Also, just, you know, shout out to the jailer there. Just
Always
really.
the jailer. Much love. Yeah,
Yeah.
always the jailer.
I'm just curious. Did he plan all this? Did he plan our future we're in with Xalatath? You know, and now it's
Yeah, or maybe Zolotov planned the jailer. You don't know. Maybe
That's
she's gonna
true.
go like, yeah, this was all my plan. You know.
So yeah, this is all the non-spoiler stuff first. This isn't like the
Yes.
latest raid and post-raid thing. So first thing I want to bring up is it's not even really something that you probably thought I was going to bring up, but it is Lothraxian. All right?
Right. Yeah.
And I remember doing the Lothraxian quest, and I don't remember the specifics of it, which is why I want to bring it up to you, because I remember doing it and being like, I don't think he's that crazy, but they were making him out to be crazy, like, oh, he's on drugs or some shit. And I was like, wait, what? And then I saw a post on the Warcraft lore Reddit, and they said it's so weird we're supposed to consider Lothraxian's mistrust of Umbric as unreasonable. So I don't know what that means because I didn't pay attention, but I do remember doing the quest and being like, I don't know, he seems all right. And then like things like happen like he said they're gonna happen anyway. So like, can you like summarize that?
Okay, so Lothraxian and other light wielders like Trellian, you might remember the intro cinematic where like his eyes were glowing as he tried to strike down the troll.
Yep.
In essence, what was happening was that miracle that I spoke about that pushed away Zalatath was like a big light beam out of the sunwell, like upstairs. And that influx of light, it seemed to have an effect on the light wielders themselves as well, where they seemed to be more zealous in their beliefs. So we saw a Trellian looking at like the void wielders and like they need to be executed. They are darkness dealers and blah, blah, blah. And for Lothraxian, this is a being which is quite mysterious because Lothraxian is a Dreadlord. And originally we had the Dreadlords that were from the Twisted Nether, so they were demons and infiltrators. But with the Shadowlands, we learned that the Dreadlords actually originate from the Shadowlands. It was Sire Denethrius who created the Dreadlords, and they were created not just to infiltrate civilizations, they were created to infiltrate the cosmic domains. So you got a domain of light and order and shadow and all those domains. Supposedly, the Dreadlords infiltrated them. And what we presume is that Lothraxian was the one that they sent out to infiltrate the domain of light. And then the question becomes, was he actually converted by the light? Or was he doing, you know, double dealings as a Dreadlord? We don't know. And really sadly, these are not plot lines that they dove into with Midnight. Instead, what we saw with Lothraxian and other light wielders is that the conflict between light and void, it pushed him into extremes. And so when he looks at an Umbric, who is a void wielder, he doesn't trust Umbric. And in that case, where they make the post of, you know, it's not without reason that he doesn't trust Umbric, I think what they are suggesting there is that Umbric, he is a void wielder, and he really wanted to go into the academy because he needed a thingamabob in order to open up the way into the void storm. But Romuff and other people were like, you're not going to go into the academy because void is dangerous. You're going to cause trouble. We're going to lose our Sunwell. You are not going to go anywhere near our thingamabob. Eventually, they're like, okay, time is running out. Let the man go to the thingamabob. And what happens? He accidentally unleashes the void. And it's thankfully to us that we clean up the mess in the dungeon, because otherwise, who knows what would have happened. So we made it work out, but there was definitely reason to go like, Umbric, the void is a dangerous source, right? Like, you didn't control it. They were not wrong in thinking they might do something wrong at the academy. So I think that is what they're referencing there with Umbric. And in the case of Lothraxian, what happens is he joins us in our mission into the Void Storm. And this domain is so infused with the Void that our Void Elves, beings that are masterful at controlling the Void, they go like, oh, the voices, the darkness is too much to handle.
The wounds champion.
The wounds. And Lothraxian has no Void. All he has the light to hold on. And so, an Arator surmises that in order to maintain something, Lothraxian holds on to the light and falls further and further into his zealotry. So when he has to deal with creatures like the Dominar, who is very much like deceiving and whispering and going, aren't you a special little Dreadlord, aren't you? He gets more and more pissed off, up to the point where he's like abandoning our Void Elf allies. He sees the destruction of Anaru. He is like, why are you guys dealing with the Dominar and these schemes and these betrayals? We should just open up the way by force. He says that if we destroy this Nexus point, that it's going to hurt Silvermoon. I say it's not going to hurt Silvermoon. It's going to open up a way, and we can get our army in here, and we can stop dealing with these backstabbers. And we're like, Lofrexian, listen, buddy, right? We're all for getting our army in here, but the way that you're going to go about it, you're going to blow up Silvermoon and it's just going to be GG game over. So we go into the dungeon and we're unable to talk sense into him and we have to put him down.
Okay. So I see what you mean. So he's going all out crazy, which is why he's bad. Okay. Because I was gonna say, it's probably one of those things where it's like his idea is like, okay, and then he just goes insane with it.
He becomes the ultimate light zealot because he has nothing else to hold on to in the Void Storm. And again, I will say, I wish that they dove in any of the other interesting plot points that there is with a Lofrexian, because we don't know much about him. And before they even can, they already killed him off. Now, he is a Dreadlord, so the question becomes, did we send him off to the Light Domain? Did we send him off to the Twisted Nether, where he's recovering? Did we send him back to the Shadowlands? There are a lot of avenues that they could Lofrexian bring him back in. But for now, this is where his story is done. Yeah.
Okay. Which again, the concept of even just death with all this stuff is just like there's a twisting nether, a light domain, a shadowland. Like I don't even know.
I mean, to be fair, in the case of the Dreadlords, that is old school. Like demons, or at least Dreadlords not being able to die on Azeroth and going back to the Twisted Nether, that is old school lore.
Yeah, honestly that's the one that I know about, because I'm like, oh yeah, twisting nether, but like what even is the light domain? I don't even know what that is.
I mean, if we consider, and it doesn't even have to. Well, we seen no. Okay, I was gonna say we've seen the Death Domain, but there's actually suggestions that what we've seen of the Shadowlands is not actually the Death Domain. So the way that I imagine it is very much, once upon a time I dove into like D&D lore with like Baldur's Gate, and they've got like a domain where all these mechanical orderly creatures come from. And I would imagine that in WoW, the domain of order would be similar, where like the Titans come from. And the domain of light, maybe that's where the Naru come from, where everything is shiny and bright. And the domain of the void is where something like the void, the old gods, or like an Il'gynoth comes from, right? But I don't think we've actually been there, so it's still very much like, how does Blizzard want to portray that?
Okay. So it might be one of those things where they don't even know as well.
Yeah, like, and definitely room to expand upon. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next point I want to get at tied into this is just the Haranir, because I know there's a lot of opinions around the Haranir, but mine, so like, I don't even know that much about any of that to begin with. Like, I know the night elves and the trolls or whatever were like supposed to be related, right?
Yeah.
But like, can you tell me a bit about the Haranir and like who Orwaina is? Because I remember doing the quest for her, but again, I'm like your standard, like, I read some of that. Okay, she wants me to do this, but I'm not like reading details, or I wasn't paying much attention. Now, if I would do it, I would pay attention, but I'm like, you know, I could just ask you.
Orwaina and the Haranir, I'm happy that you ask. Yeah. The Haranir are a new race, and similar to something like the Pandaren that were later introduced, or insert any race that we came across later that we never seen before. The Haranir are a new race added into the story. So before War Within, we hadn't heard about the Haranir before. Turns out that the Haranir have been living at the roots of the World Tree, which I assume is inside of Azeroth, but there's a bit of a... Is that true or not? But either way, they live where the roots of the World Tree go to. And the Haranir, they followed the voice of their goddess to go down there into Herendar. That's the area called. And the voice of the goddess is presumably the voice of Azeroth. By the time that the Haranir go down there, they find out that the voice they were following was not the direct voice of their goddess. It was merely an echo still left behind, as it turns out, the Titans had taken their goddess away and locked her up. Oh, very sad. So the Haranir are like, okay, where did our goddess go? So some of them went looking for them, and some of them, first of all, they became very pissed off. They were like, oh man, we follow this voice, she's not even there, and a big old war broke out. And that's where the Haranir got the idea from, that they should not interfere with the world up above, because they felt like they couldn't trust themselves, that they were too hostile, and that they were much better off just sticking to their own kind down below there. But there are also those, like, where are our goddess? And they... in tablets, we are told that they went to search for her and they never came back. I would assume that if and when we go to the World Soul, that is where we'll find more Haranir, but that is an assumption. So over the years, the Haranir, they tend to the World Tree roots that eventually came down, and they take care of the roots, they do their nature thing, Very rarely would they go up above to actually check out the world, but they've done so. They've gone up above. They can travel through the routes. But again, it's very much like they don't want to interfere. And if they do, it will most likely be from the shadows. Orwena is introduced as a character as Orwena was listening to the voice of the goddess. And in her case, the goddess told her, you need to go. You need to go out. You need to go help out. You need to go stop Zolotov. And eventually that leads to her meeting up with us in the War Within, where she saves our lives against the Nerubians, and she is dealing with the black blood dealings that we had in the War Within. So Zolotov, she was going for the black blood, she was doing like Nerubian experiments and whatnot, and Orwena helped us out, spoke to the goddess, and eventually led us into Undermine, where she met up with Gaslow. And funny enough, Gaslow actually visited her in Hadadar as well. So for those shippers out there, if you want to ship Orwena with Gaslow, you most definitely can. Because she calls him Monty, so that's also a thing. Yeah. Immediately shipped. So that was the War Within. And then in Midnight, as what we found out is that with the World Soul Saga, originally it was the story in one expansion, and then they had Madsen sit down, and there were all these ideas, and they were like, okay, we need to do this over multiple expansions. And things have been starting to shift around and move around. And this is very clear with the story of the Heronir in Herondar, as this storyline was supposed to be in the War Within, but they moved it into Midnight. But okay, fair enough. They repurposed it. Not the end of the world. Just wish they'd done a little bit cleaner, because we still have quest lines where there's like pop-ups from Bran Bronzebeard, like Delve quested kind of stuff that's still left over from the War Within. But okay, whatever. It's not entirely clean, but okay. We go down there. We meet Orwena's people. Again, these are people that are not supposed to mingle with outsiders, but we earn their trust. We find out that's corrupting within, and we deal with the Light Bloom. And the Light Bloom is, again, an effect of the Sunwell being light-infused. It's been seeping into nature, and with the blast of light coming out of it, what was first seen as a blessing has now become much more aggressive, much more hostile. Think the Everbloom from Warlords of Draenor. If you remember in Draenor, we had like these plant people with plant zombies and all that. Very similar storyline. So we deal with the Light Bloom, we deal with the Heronir, they become an allied race. Eventually, they join the Alliance and the Hordes. And then we've got their connection to the Amani storyline. And what they've done is they invited everybody over, the elves, the Amani, and the Heronir. They do a presentation. And they're like, listen, right? We checked our tablets. We checked our super magical runes that allow us to really deeply research our history and our past. Turns out we're all related. We're all related. We have an origin point. The Heronir came first, and then the trolls followed, and the Night Elves followed, but we're all related. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that fantastic? And the player base goes, yeah, but hang on a minute. I don't want my race to be connected to the Heronir. I don't want them to take the role as like being the first race. And for me personally, I don't particularly care much, but I was curious about what does this mean for the lore, because the cinematic that we're shown, it shows two paths. It shows one with like troll evolution and one with elf evolution. Whereas in the past, the original lore is that the elves came from the dark trolls, so there should be a split, right? If you want to show that, you would have the troll evolution, which then branches off into the elves, but visually, there were two distinct roads. So I asked the developers on Twitter, like, listen, right, visually, it looks like that dark troll origin is no longer there. What does this mean? And we got a lot of explanation, a lot of storylines. Ultimately, it came down to this presentation is the Heronir's point of view on the storyline, which we take for truth. I was like, oh, okay. So it's their take on things. Okay,
so
cool.
it's not actually like 100% accurate potentially. It's just what they believe.
Yes. And it's not like Blizzard sitting down like this is the origin that we want. It's their point of view. And that is the information. So you can take it, like the Heronir believe that they are the first, but you could also still hold on to the original lore, or you could do this, or you could do that. Let's not go into point of view storytelling, but that's how they do it. And now, a big fear amongst the player base was that this revelation was going to be used in order to sand down any conflict between the trolls and the elves, and that because they have this Heronir connection, that now everybody's going to hold hands, kumbaya, everything is going to be great. But what I really love is that the opposite happened. They use this, and instead of having that happen, they actually have people sit down and go like, look, that was a really cool presentation, right? But what do the Heronir want out of us? Do they really think this is going to change anything? It's between Lorfmar and like the Grizzled, and they kind of laugh at what the Heronir told them. And then the Heronir themselves, as this has ramifications, like there's things that happen out of this. Someone like Orwena wonders to her. We can tell her, like, Orwena, all of this that happened afterwards is not your fault. It's not your fault. And Orwena goes like, no. We, the Heronir, we still have a lot to learn. We tried to share this information out of a place of we're trying to do good. We're trying to bring people together. But obviously, we still have a lot to learn. And this was a mistake on our part. And I really love that. I love how that's being used to further the storytelling.
Yeah, that is cool. Because I know with the way you just talked about the whole thing, my initial thought when they were like, we live in the underground and the voices are speaking to us, I was like, could it just be old gods? You know what I mean?
There was actually speculation about that. And there is, like, in speculation, you could always still do it. When they're speaking about the goddess, Orwena has a cinematic where visually she sees the same orb that we see in the War Within intro cinematic with Thrall and Enduin. If you remember that there's like a voice screeching at them, that same orb is used, and Orwena calls her the goddess. And then we have Daily Quest in Midnight with the Heronir, where eventually it's revealed that their goddess was taken away. And we know that Azeroth was taken away. There's like blue and yellow color schemes. There is that voice. Now, could that voice be influenced by the old gods? I mean, Azeroth has been corrupted by the old gods for a very long time. Could it be old god manipulations? Oh, 100%. But for now, it seems to be the voice of the goddess that led them there.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like an old god probably wouldn't help them to victory unless they're like playing some mastered 5D chess over there or something. But what do I know? So
I mean, for speculation, anything goes, right? We won't know until we know.
Yeah. So then we get to the Amani stuff, right? And the Amani have Zul'Jara and Zul'Jin. They had Zul'Jin. Zul'Jan and Zul'Jara. So can you do a little rundown of like the Amani and kind of tying into the Blood Elves and everything from back in Burning Crusade?
Okay. Long history. Longer works better. Once upon a time, trolls dominated Azeroth. Basically, everything was theirs, right? Like, they were top dog. They were the ones who owned it. But then Queen Azshara and the Night Elves, with their pesky Well of Eternity, rose up. And the Well of Eternity gave Azshara and the Night Elves incredible power. So much so that the trolls had to concede lands to them, which sucked, but they had to, right? So eventually, the War of the Ancients plays out, which is that big war with like Azshara trying to summon in Sargeras, and the land split apart. And the Amani would go out and fight against a creature called Kifix, which we'll dive more into with that history. But they fought against Kifix, they brought it low, and they built their empire of Zulaman upon its bones. So the Amani, they got the territory, they're chilling, they killed Kifix, fantastic. Meanwhile, the leftover elves are embracing nature, and they're like, we shouldn't do magic anymore, because every time we do magic, we summon in bad things. We're gonna execute anybody who still wields magic. But there were so many amongst the people like, listen, magic is our birthright. We don't want to give this up. What are we gonna do here? So instead, Exile was the choice. A Dovramar Sunstrider, together with a whole bunch of other people, they took a vial that Illidan had filled with water from the original Well of Eternity. They set out, they start their travels, and they would go into Tirisfal. And in Tirisfal, there was like darkness underneath the ground. It drove them crazy, so they kept going. Eventually, they meet the very early humans in like the Arafi Highlands, where they meet like Thoradin, and he was bringing all these human clans together. And the elves and the humans, the high elves and the humans, I should say, the highborn, sorry. No, they were actually, we'll get there. The elves and the humans, they actually got along very well. And so the elves go forward, and eventually they find this magical spot where ley lines come together, where all this magic comes together, and they're like, cool, we're gonna build Quell Falasir, our capital city. Except that land was owned by the Amani trolls. And the Amani trolls, they remembered the days of Queen Azshara. They remembered giving up land to the elves, and they were like, oh, heck no. Oh, heck no, not these elves again. Get out. So immediately, kill on sight, the trolls try to kick out the elves, and the elves are like, listen, right? We're refugees, we're trying to get a new land going. And eventually they make their Sunwell. And with the Sunwell, they had the power to fight back against the Amani. Eventually the Amani get like Zandalar reinforcements and Loa and all that. So the elves are like, okay, what do we do? Well, we could ask those early humans for help. Thoradin, would you like to ally with us? And Thoradin is like, bet. I'll give you my humans, beautiful melee units, but listen, right? In exchange, I want you to teach 100 of us on how to do magics. And the elves were like, okay, deal, let's do that. So they work together, and there's this beautiful art in the Chronicles where like a massive flame pillar that comes down and just wipes out everybody. This union between the early humans and the elves, it brought such devastation to the Amani that they never truly really recovered from. And from that union, we will also see the Arafi that we saw in Hollowfall and the War Within. That's how that came to be. But okay, cool. The High Elves, they got their Sunwell, they got 12 Velus, they're established there. But that battle with the Amani Trolls, that would go on for millennia. There would not really be any peace between them. At some point, Liadrin's parents are lost to them. At some point, Lorfmar's kidnapped and tortured and stabbed in his belly. You actually voiced the animation that we did for that video, which is really sick.
I remember.
Yeah. So it's safe to say that the history between elf and troll does not get any better. So at some point, the Dark Portal opens up, and the first horde comes into Azeroth. And at that point, War Chief Doomhammer, he meets up with Zul'jin, and they made a deal. Zul'jin and the Amani and the trolls, they would guide the trolls. They would guide the horde through the lands, because they got that knowledge. The horde just arrived. And in exchange, the horde would bring sweet vengeance to the elves. Unfortunately, the elves had magic to protect them. So even though the horde swooped in, Dragonfire and all that, they still couldn't deliver to Zul'jin, so they broke their promise, and that got Zul'jin really, really upset. I need to cough 2 seconds. Excuse me, got a mild case of the sniffles. So that betrayal did not sit well with Zul'jin. But okay, retreated eventually, lost his arm, lost his eye, retreated back into Zulaman. And over time, the elves would suffer. Somebody would show up that was able to claim the high home of the high elves, and this person was Arthas. Due to betrayal within...
Pause. So, how does he lose his arm and his eye?
If I remember correctly, they captured him there, but I would have to double check. But if I remember correctly, due to the betrayal of Doomhammer, the elves are able to capture him and interrogate and torture him, and he cuts off his arm to escape them.
Oh, okay.
But let me double check that for you.
Yeah, you can double check it. Because I do remember, I think, reading he did cut off to escape them. And then I think his eye, they just cut out. Because he didn't cut it out, right? They cut out his eye, I think.
Yeah, they were like, here, we have a knife for you. Let's just poke that out and deal with that for you. Zul'jin fought throughout the Second War, and he and Doomhammer developed a mutual respect. Eventually, unable to reach with the fire, he put up a fierce fight, but his entourage was cut down, and Zul'jin was taken into the custody of Haldoran Brightwing, who set up camp and waited for the fire to subside. Chaining Zul'jin to a stone pillar, Haldoran's men brutally tortured Zul'jin for hours on end, even gouging his eye out. Haldoran was a close friend and comrade of Lorfmar Faron, and still remembered his friend's ordeals at Zul'jin's hand years before, that whole torture thing. He declined counsel to simply execute Zul'jin, hoping to drag the prisoner to Silvermoon alive, so that Lorfmar could decide his fate. Yet this decision to keep the chieftain alive for punishment, rather than execute him on the spot. This would prove short-sighted. In a daring rescue attempt, the Amani raiders wounded Brightwing and caused enough havoc for Zul'jin to escape, the chieftain cutting off his own arm with a discarded spear to do so.
Damn, alright. That's that's intense, cutting off your own arm with a discarded spear.
Yeah, is metal, and there's the whole part about trolls being able to regenerate, and like Zul'jin, there's like speculation on him refusing to do so. But yeah, it was the whole getting captured after the whole working together with Doomhammer not working out. So as you can imagine, Zul'jin did not have a lot of love and favor towards the Horde. Yeah. So Arthur shows up, the High Elves become the Blood Elves, and the Blood Elves rejoin the Horde as the Blood Elves. And so Zul'jin is like, oh, okay, so my old allegiance, my old faction is now working with the Blood Elves. F you, F everybody. I don't care. If you want to come into my lands, we're going to wipe you out. But there's also the whole path about going for conquest and trying to reclaim what was lost. Because a big part of the troll storytelling time and time again is that they want to reclaim the empire of old and they want to retake what was lost. So in the Burning Crusade, we read about Zul'jin and Malakras forcing the Loa to take their powers and infuse their warriors. And what's really cool is that part of the reason why Malakras came up with this idea is because he looked over at the Blood Elves, and the Blood Elves had taken a Naru captured, and they were draining the Naru of the light, and that would lead into the creation of the Blood Knights. And one of the first Blood Knights was Lady Liadrin, the main character that now goes into Zulaman in Midnight. So by looking at what the Blood Elves were doing, Malakras was able to devise his own plans of, hey, we can do that with our Loa. We're going to suck out our power, and we're going to infuse our warriors, and we're going to reclaim what was lost. More details have now been added with Midnight, but that was the story back then. So rumor of this is spread around. We get wind of this, and we go into Zulaman, and we bring swift justice. And that's with the Burning Crusade. Then we had, I believe, the Cataclysm revamp, where all of a sudden we just go back in, and there's like a replacement. There's the Zandalar that show up. But in essence, we do what we did before. We clear out the place again. And now with Midnight, what's really, really cool in the Zulaman zone is that they've expanded it. So there's not just the temple, there's now the whole territory around it. And we actually learn about characters that had to deal with our actions in the aftermath. So the grandchildren of Zul'jin, Zul'jara and Zul'jan, they had to grow up in a world without the Loa because their grandfather's actions, it broke the bond that the Amani had with the Loa. And so Zul'jara and Zul'jin, they very much are like, the Loa don't exist. They don't answer our prayers, that's for sure. And I thought that was really, really cool because this is actually an aftermath of the effects that we had done on the story.
Oh,
so we go in, and we are learning about this. And throughout the course of the storyline, what I really appreciate about these two characters is that, in my mind, which I'm gonna do a full video on, because I've learned that this is an opinion. In my opinion, both Zul'jan and Zul'jara wanted what was best for the people, but they went about it in completely different ways. So a Zul'jara, she was able to eventually open up her heart and mind to the idea of reconnecting to the Loa. She goes through all these trials, and she becomes Hashe, which is like empowered by all the Loa, chosen by her people. She is the chieftain and holding it all together. Whereas Zul'jan, he also wants to reclaim lands, and he wants his people to grow up and healthy and all that, but he cannot believe that she would trust the Loa again, and that she would ally to the Blood Elves and all that stuff. He's like, nah. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it like my granddaddy did this. We're gonna do it with the sweat on our brow and with our own arms, and we're going to conquer this land. We're going to claim Lightwood that they needed to fight back against the cultists. And then he had the idea, like, if we dealt with the cultists, we can go further into Elven lands. Eventually, he is like, we should take our armies and we should wipe out the cultists ourselves. Stop chasing these Loa that abandon us. They won't answer your prayers. They haven't done so for decades. And I think that there's something to be said about that mindset, especially if you're a kid that grew up without the Loa, that abandoned you. Because we, on a top-down view, we can see like, okay, his granddad did bad stuff, and that is why the Loa don't respond. But first of all, Zul'jan does not believe those stories. And second of all, even if he would believe those stories, why does that mean that he has to suffer for his grandfather's actions?
Yeah.
And does it then not make sense that someone like Zul'jan does not want to prove himself to the Loa, to those that in his eyes let them languish and let them be alone all these years? And therein lies the difference between Zul'jara and Zul'jan. And of course, Zul'jara is proven right. She comes together, she brings the Loa back in. But I love that there's something to be said about Zul'jan's point. And that's in essence 12.0, where we reconnect with the Loa, we make Zul'jara Hashe, and we kick Twilight Cultist booty.
Yes. All right. So I think now we're all caught up on the well, you know, Sylvanas coming out of the maw. Which actually, you know what? Let's just do that real quick. So Sylvanas, I don't even know how to start with the Sylvanas thing, but like, what, she was in the maw because of her actions from, was it burning the world tree, or was it just something else?
A whole bunch. But in essence, allying with the jailer and everything that came out of that. Yeah. Okay.
So she's supposed to just be in the maw forever. Like, who's watching over the maw? Because the jailer's like gone, right? So like, who's in charge of the maw?
Nobody really, to be honest. I mean, was the jailer in charge of the maw, or was he imprisoned within the maw? He kind of became like the boss of the maw over time. But he was supposed to be chained up there, and over time he was able to turn his chains into a weapon, and he started to control them all. But it's supposed to be like this prison realm, this realm of torment where you're supposed to not be able to escape.
Okay, so she escapes, right? Uh,
To be fair, like, okay, so in fairness, in the storytelling, like you could argue that she spent a lot of time down there, and she has learned a lot of things, as well as we have seen many beings leave the maw. In essence, what that sentence came down to is pretty much everybody can leave the maw except the jailer, but then even he left the maw.
yeah,
It's not as inescapable as they made it out to be, basically.
yeah.
But yeah, Sylvanas in Hell was supposed to send all those souls back up for judgment that she sent down into the maw, because they were not supposed to all go down into the maw. But because of the actions of the jailer and Sylvanas, that started to happen. So her punishment was going to be sending all the souls that they unjustly sent down there to go back up for judgment. We then have the Midnight Starting event, where Adator decides, you know what, Silvermoon needs the Windrunner sisters again. We should ask Sylvanas to help out. And Sylvanas, which I thought was really great dialogue, Sylvanas explains to him that she's not going to help out. Can you imagine what would happen politically if word would spread that Sylvanas Windrunner had escaped the Maw? She made her choice. She was going to pay the price for her actions. This was her penance. She would not break her sentence. And I thought that was awesome. She also dropped some hints at, the Shadowlands is not what it's supposed to be, some hints at future storytelling. But okay, for the moment, Sylvanas is going to stay down there. And she told him, like, you think that Windrunner should protect Silvermoon, you go be the Windrunner that you need to be, right? All right, cool. This is actually really cool dialogue. Then we go through all the questing. We eventually get to, like, the finale with... we need to go back into the Dark Well and stop Zolotoff. And Adator dropped this line where he's like, oh, I really wish Sylvanas was here. And I read that line and like, what do you mean? Did you not listen to what your aunt told you? She was going to stay down there. That's a really weird thing to say, Adator. But it wasn't a weird thing to say. It was to hint at us like, oh yeah, that's totally going to happen.
Yeah, it was their attempt at foreshadowing that.
Yeah, oh my god. So we do the final fight, which was not against Zolotoff, it was against the Dark Naru. But we defeat the Naru, Arator and Varisa are kneeling on the ground. Zolotoff is there. What could we possibly do? Nobody there to save us, even though there's still the Horde armies and the Alliance armies. And, oh, I don't know, the actual Ranger General Silvermoon, Halderon Brightwing? Maybe? No, we're just going to open up a portal and Sylvanas comes out. Why? Because it's Sylvanas. And you know what? With that in mind, I know a lot of people really love Sylvanas, and I'm not gonna yak your yum. Yeah, it's cool to see Sylvanas again. For me personally, I just wish that if you're gonna give her a road of redemption, and you're gonna give me the inclination, like, yeah, we understand that we've done a lot of damage, and we're gonna slowly build that up, then just opening up that portal, be like, here she is. Why? Yeah.
And it also happens in a very Deus Ex Machina way, where she's just like right here at the right time to like that type of thing.
Oh, don't get me started. It's like, Sylvanas, if you could do this all along, why didn't you stop your sister from being stabbed? Were you waiting in the Shadowlands like, ooh, this is my moment. She's gonna monologue now. This is the perfect time.
And then everyone clapped.
And she starts her sentence the moment, we Windrunners. And it's like, there is no way that you could know what Zolotoff was saying just a moment ago. Did you install cameras? What is happening right here?
Yeah, And it to me, that's the type of thing that breaks you from the reality of the actual world and makes it feel like, oh, this is like a fan servicey type of thing. And I think that's part of my problem with it. I think that's probably a lot of people's problem with it, is it shatters that, like, I'm in this world, and even though it's a fantasy world, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a fantasy thing. The whole point of fantasy worlds is you can become like engrossed and enveloped in the world and feel like you're a part of that world and things make sense in that world. But when you start having these things happen, it feels like they're going beyond the limits of that world because of fan service. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah, and I half made that sentence during the reaction as well. And I want to make it really clear, I agree with Crendor on that one. Just because it's a fantasy setting does not mean that there isn't real stakes that you can sink your teeth in. Just because it's fantasy does not mean anything goes. You set rules for your fantasy world, and if you break those rules, you need to explain how that works, why that works, and this is now the new norm. So the new norm that you have created is that Sylvanas can randomly open up a portal out of the maw and shoot an arrow at people. That is a superpower. Like, let her do that all the time. That is awesome. Or if Sylvanas can do this, why can't other characters out of the Shadowlands join her at the side of the portal and start shooting some fireballs? Like Kill for Sunstrider could have also shot a fireball at Zolotoff.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a thing now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really is my big issue with it, because it doesn't feel realistic to this fantasy world. So the other thing with Xal'atath is like you mentioned her motives, but I wanted to bring up the tie-in, because some people are like, oh well, Sylvanas can get Xal'atath because like undead and void don't blend together, and they're like, well, you have to read the book to learn that, and I'm just like, bro, what? So like, what's it say in the book or whatever?
So, well, to be fair, they repeated this line during Karesh as well. In Karesh, we did a campaign where we actually allied with Xal'atath, and at some point, Venari, that's also a creature out of the Maw. She was actually originally comes from Karesh. She repeats the lines to Xal'atath in the direction of, "I have been to the Maw. I know what you fear." So that specifies a little bit. The thing that people are referencing is the Windrunner comic, which I believe was released in Battle for Azeroth. And honestly, it is still speculation. It's not confirmed.
Right.
But now that we have like Venari repeating it, in essence, what happens is that Illyria Windrunner, Sylvanas' sister, the one who is like the Void Wielder, she constantly has the Void that is whispering to her in her mind. And the moment they see Sylvanas, they're like, you need to kill her. You need to stop her. She is dangerous. She is a threat. Kill, kill, kill. And there's something that the Void fears about Sylvanas. I would still argue back then that basically the Void was just trying to make her kill anyone. But yes, it definitely seemed to be something about death that they don't like. And now more specifically about the Maw. So speculative, is it because death kills any and all possibilities and the Void is about all the possibilities? Is it because in death the Void can't eat you? Is it because domination magic? Is it because insert reason here? There is something that she doesn't like about it, and apparently Sylvanas knows. I don't know how Sylvanas knows, but she knows. And that is to be revealed, I guess.
Yeah, and that's another type of thing where I don't like that, because it almost feels like you see the light at the end of the tunnel from that, where you're just like, is Sylvanas gonna save the day? Like, that's all we got happening?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I mean,
But
it's
oh yeah, go on.
it's more like what exactly happened in that confrontation. Shooting one arrow and some dialogue of I honestly didn't calculate for you, and then she just zooms out of there. Like you said, it's very fan servicey, and it's very much like this is a moment that we wanted to happen, rather than this is a moment that we work towards.
Right.
In the same vein of Illyria shooting the Dark Heart in the War Within, that caused Xal'atath to go like, this changes nothing. I was talking to another content creator at the time, and they were also very much like, this is a moment that happened because it needed to happen. What do you mean? She was invincible. This entire pre-patch and this leveling experience, she is untouchable, and now she's able to hit the Dark Heart at the moment where she's the most powerful? Like, huh? And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, these moments happen because they need to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like, because still with Xal'atath, it's like everyone's like, she's the most powerful person ever. She's got all this power. She sucked up the big blueberry. Like, she's insane, and yet she just keeps being like, you'll see next time. And it's like, do something. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, like, take somebody over. So I was already like theory crafting in my head, because I'm like, dude, I think I'm just a better villain than Xal'atath, like me personally. So I was like, here's what I would do. And some people are like, this is very mean. And I'm like, that's the point of a villain. It's like,
wait, people told you were being mean
because of my idea. So I was like, if I was Xal'atath, right, and I had like Illyria, because she has her husband Turalyon, right, and who's her son, the like 40-year-old elf that's like 10 or whatever.
Arathor.
Yeah, Arathor. I would be like, here's Turalyon and here's Arathor, all right, and I've got them both like hanging above like a death thing, and I'm like, you got to save one of them. And then she's like, well, I'm gonna save both. And then it's like, if you try to save both, they're both gonna die. And then she'd be like, blah, 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 and you gotta pick one, and then they like both die. That's what I would do. I'd be like, well, sucks for you, and then they're dead. They wouldn't do that, because that's like an insane thing. But I'm like, dude, if you're the most powerful being, like, I can do this shit. I can capture your husband and your son and be like, oh, you gotta pick one, and then if you don't, like, they're gonna die. And then she has to live with that, like, why didn't I save one? I couldn't save this. And then you get like this crazy shit, and then you're playing mind games. She's literally taking over people's bodies. She can't do that. So that's why people heard that, like, that'd be crazy. I'm like, that's the point. She is crazy.
I'd be down for that. It would be well cool.
Yeah. So, and then we get back to what Xalatath wants, which I've heard some people be like, well, she wants to survive. But like, who doesn't want to survive? Like, that's not a real thing to...
I mean, that's not... Nah, if she wants to survive, she could go live on a remote planet and not start massive wars. Like...
Yeah. So it's like, what does she want? But that's what you've been saying, is we don't really know what she wants yet. We just know she wants power for some reason.
Yeah. And for all we know, maybe she just wants to release Azeroth because she knows this world is a prison and the Titans are bad, and it turns out that Xalatath was actually trying to help us all along. I mean, at this point, it would be a long shot, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. And it ties back to my video where I bring this up, which is the mystery. And it's one thing to have mystery for the sake of mystery. And then there's like the mystery, which is more just like curiosity, where you know what the person wants, but there can be mystery behind that as well. Or she could be like, you know what? I want the world soul because, you know, my family, like some void reason. You'd be like, my ancestors, like shamed me and were like, you'll never be a void person. And she's like, and I'm going to prove them wrong. Like, sure. Then that's like something. Like I said, she could want shoes. I would genuinely be fine if she was like, I want this because I'm going to craft some like really cool shoes. Genuinely, that's like a reason. I'd be like, you know what? She's got a reason. Screw it.
It's more than what we have right now, which is, I thought that the Void Storm was going to give us answers to what Xalatath is about. And instead we got a cinematic with a backstory where she's shown to be a mortal baby with like this star around her neck, which is there to create intrigue, like, ooh, who is she? But the whole intrigue, you've already done that for an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
It is the time of creating intrigue, in my opinion, is past, and we need some solid answers as to what's happening, especially since we are actively stopping her. And this is very much repeat of what happened to Jailer. If you don't know her motivations, I am not emotionally invested enough to go like, I am doing a heroic thing, or I am doing a bad thing, because I don't know what she is about. And yet, brainlessly, my hero shows up and does what it needs to be doing. Now, from her actions, we can definitely assume that she doesn't have the best intention for all of us in mind, but it would be very nice to know, to have a little bit of an inkling. And what I find really alarming is that we have Blizzard developers during presentations go like, Xalatath has stated her intentions. And it's like, no, she has not. Where, when? Can you point me toward when she did that?
Well, I guess her intentions are to get the world soul, but we don't really know the intentions behind why she's doing those intentions.
I knew she wanted the world soul like last expansion ago. Like, yes, I know. That's why it's called the World Soul Saga.
Yeah, dude, I'm breaking noble now. Because like tying into Midnight, my entire belief going into Midnight was this was going to be the We Lose expansion. I bring this up in my video, and it's like the fact that right away we already like saved the Sunwell. Like I was just like, what? Like that's like why? Like that doesn't even make any sense. Like I thought it'd be so much cooler if she shows up and she's like she's the most powerful being like in Azeroth or the world or whatever it is. And we try to fight her away and we can't. And it's just like the Sunwell is blocked off. She's got her like magical energy around it. And then we go out into the world and we like help, you know, the people around it. And maybe by helping the Haranir and helping the Amani and helping everybody, this like weakens the soul, the Sunwell's like magical energy that Xalatath has around it. And so every time we do something like a raid or a dungeon, we see that like the beam that is all void and purple and blue, it gets a little lighter. And you're like, dude, we're actually like, we're breaking her barriers. We're doing this. And then by the end of the expansion, you shatter it and then you go fight her like at the Sunwell and you reclaim it. And you're like, we took it back for you, Xalatath, but now we're going to come get you wherever you're going. And she's just like, you'll pay for this, blah, blah, blah. Like, boom. I came up with it in like a minute. Like, what are we doing?
Do you not enjoy problems created and resolved in a span of 2 weeks? Is that not enjoyable? Is that not?
It's like there's a reason that Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers is like one of everyone's favorites. And it's because we have that type of thing where it's like you win, but it's like you win the battle, but you haven't won the war. And so it's like, I thought that's what we were going to get. We were going to get that Lord of the Rings, Two Towers type of thing where we win the battle and we lose the war. And it, you know, you have that sense of like, this isn't good, you know, we're losing, whatever. But it's like, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, we're making progress and, you know, we're trying our best and uniting. And that's
honestly, with the World Soul Saga, this was the opportune moment to do it because they already told us, like, we're going to do 3 books, we're going to do 3 expansions. Let us lose in the middle. You're absolutely right about that. And instead, yeah, we lost somewhat. We lost, but that lasted for 2 weeks until we came back into the raid. We took care of the Naru. We made Zalatov go away, and then another 2 weeks, and the well is restored, and the elves come together in our high home, and everything is neat little ribbon around it. And these are things, and pacing is a massive issue right now. Wow. But what a missed opportunity to not dip the entire world into void. Now, could they at some point still go like, oh yeah, Zolotov wins and we have lost? Yeah, I'll cheer when it happens. But how cool would it have been if in this one, like you said, we don't get that immediate victory and we actually do have higher stakes? I think the last time that we actually lost was Legion, where we went to the Broken Shore and we had to go out and we actually devastation. Although you could argue like Dalaran and running into Kezogar, but I would argue the Legion was a bit more impactful. But even then, the start was horrific and we start mowing down everything. In Kezogar, the start was horrific and we start mowing down everything and it all just turns out again. How cool would it have been to last that skybox that they made with the beam in the sky? It looked gorgeous. You could see it all the way from Booty Bay. It looks so sick. And it's gone. And it's like, what do you mean it's gone? Why?
Yeah. And again, when you do this type of thing, it kind of reinforces the whole statement of we're fine. Like nothing can go wrong. And when it happens like that, it just gets boring because you're like, well, if nothing bad's going wrong, then why do I care? Like, we're going to be fine. And it's like, you can tell somebody that things are bad, but you have to show that they're going bad. We have to like actually feel it. And that's why I made like Game of Thrones references, but there's like plenty of them. I mean, even in Lord of the Rings, to go back to Lord of the Rings, in the first movie, we see like Boromir dies to the Uruk-hai, and you're just like, oh shit, like things are getting crazy, and like they're far away from home, and like all these things are going bad. They're not just like, hey, you know what? I mean, at the end they kind of have the thing of like, we're gonna do this together or whatever, but like bad things are happening. Like their friend is dead, like all these things, and it's just like in WoW we don't really get that. It's like, oh, this guy might die, never mind, he's good. This thing might go, actually we're good.
From time to time they've got bangers. Like in the Undermine we had the Shiv who was lasered in front of Gaslow, and then you read dialogue where Gaslow has like dust of the Shiv on his face and he like smears it away and he's like dead silent, like, oh, this is so cool. But it's more individual sacrifice that happened rather than big disastrous payoffs, right? Like ultimately the patches, it's a trend recently that the patches kind of wrap up in the sense of, oh, it actually turned out well. And I agree in that regard. It would be nice to have some lingering threats going on and not everything instantly resolved. Pacing. Like the end destination, not even the issue. I have no issue with coming together and cleansing the Sunwell. More with the issue that it happened so quickly.
Yeah, and that ties into my other point, which is consequences, which I go over in my video. I talk about there. Dude, I got some notes here. So let's jump into the spoilery section. So I'll mark this as like the spoiler because this is like the latest patches, I guess. So with the latest patch, we go to the new Isle, right? Because Zul'Jan is like, we need to like he's talking about the new crazy monster Loa old god thing, whatever it is, right? He's like, it's a weapon. Yeah. And so we're helping him do all that, and he finds the blade and Malakras, and he gets taken, essentially. To really sum it up in one of the most generic, non-descriptive ways
good
possible.
Summary, yeah.
So first off, before I get into the serious things, can I just say with Malakras laughing, and this is kind of a trope that a lot of villains do, but I hate when villains laugh a lot. Unless they're like the Riddler. Or like, you know, like someone that's like actually psychotic where you're like, what the hell? But like this happens in so many things with like cartoony tropes or whatever. And like, I don't mind it a little bit, but it's like sometimes the villains just keep laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? And I get the whole point of them laughing is they're trying to be like, they're crazy, they're a little unhinged, but like, we could do it a couple times and we get it. They do it so much that it feels like overused and it becomes kind of like extremely tropey, kind of extremely.
You're releasing Ulatek and you're laughing. What? Yeah.
Yeah. So can you kind of just explain the whole like Malakras and the blade and stuff better than I can?
Right. So, ancient history. Once upon a time, I spoke about how the Amani established their kingdom by defeating Kifix. And Kifix is this big old god creature. At the time, he had Zolotov, Blade of the Black Empire, the relic with Zolotov inside. He was wielding her, and he was causing all sorts of death and mayhem. And the Akir were about, and old gods tentacles everywhere. And the Amani were like, we're gonna take him out, and we're gonna claim our kingdom. We got this. So this big old war plays out, and originally, the lore, the history told us that the Amani, they did it by the sweat on their brow and the weapon in hand. They threw their lives at Kifix, and eventually they won. But turns out that history has been buried and details were left out of it. Turns out that they didn't just do it with their own sweat on their brow, they actually summoned in Ulatek. Ulatek is this big old snake creature summoned with great sacrifice amongst the people with that dagger, right? And Ulatek was strong enough and big enough to kill Kifix. That's how they earned victory. However, similar to like a Hakar, the Soul Flayer from way back when, Ulatek then turned around and was worshipped and became a problem for the Amani, up to the point where they were like, okay, this is too much. We gotta put her down. And they managed to do it somehow. The details as to how that was done, omitted. But okay, they took down Ulatek and they buried whatever remnants of Ulatek they had and whatever followers or whatnot. They all buried it under rock and stone and on an island where nobody was supposed to go. And that dagger, what's really interesting, is they locked the dagger away. And what we learn in the questing is that you could actually destroy the dagger. And what I find an interesting thing to think about is like, if you really want to get rid of Ulatek, and the dagger is the thing that can summon Ulatek, why would you keep the dagger around? And I kind of feel...
just destroy it.
Yeah, that they did it because like this ultimate doomsday device. Because, okay, they were very high and mighty and they were like, Ulatek should never have been summoned and death and destruction. But the end result is they were able to build up their empire. They were able to kill Kifix. What if they didn't summon Ulatek? What would have happened to the people? Would they have been wiped out? So, what if another threat like Kifix would show up in the future? Wouldn't it be damn handy to hold a dagger around that you can use to summon in such a power? Like an ultimate... oh my god, we're in trouble move. Now, that is pure headcanon. I don't know if that's true, but that is an explanation. Anyways, many years pass, and we now learn that Granddad Zul'jin did not just want to take the power of the Loa into him, he also had plans in mind of going after Ulatek. Malakras was back then already whispering to him about Ulatek, but ultimately, the Loa were like, we're not going to help you get Ulatek. Zul'jin did not want to go after Ulatek without the Loa support, and they came with the whole plan of like, we're going to force the Loa to serve. Like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool detail. And when Zul'jin learns about this from the Heronir presentation, from the details, from the tablets, and he finds out that Ulatek is actually a thing, because for Zul'jin, it was also very much like, we did this with weapon in hand, right? And now he learns like, oh, my people relied on the Loa. But then he starts to swap that information in his mind, and he's like, no, they didn't just worship and rely on the Loa. They dominated it. They claimed it, like he claimed Lightwood, like his grandfather claimed the power of the Loa, which in his mind was a good thing, right? So he's like, cool, we can claim Ulatek, and we can reclaim the glory of the Empire. I don't have to worry about the Blood Elf allegiance. My sister, who's Hache, is great, but those Loa, they're just going to betray us again. I'm going to get Ulatek, and it's going to be wonderful. So he goes through the storyline. He also has Malakras now whispering through him through a mask. Like, apparently that's possible. Malakras' spirit is connected to the mask. And Malakras is playing upon his deepest, darkest feelings. Like, you know, you're unworthy and you're in your sister's shadow. And why don't they trust you?
Is this like a Ner'zhul type of...
oh, very much a Ner'zhul type of thing. Yes, the parallels are very clear. Up to the point where Uncle... Zul'jin's last remaining family member and like his father figure, right? Uncle was telling him like, young boy, stop. This is not the way. We should trust in Zul'jara. To which Zul'jin is like, why don't you trust in me, right? Yeah. Trust in what I'm doing. Ultimately, there's this whole ritual. He needs to smash an altar to get the dagger. And in the process, big explosion, Uncle dies. And at that point, Zul'jin is like, oh my god, what have I done? And Malakras is whispering to him like, look, see, if the Loa really were trustworthy, if they loved you, Uncle would have never died, right? The Loa, again, has failed you, like they failed your mum and your father and your grandfather. And at that point, again, this is all personal interpretation. I've just made a big old video on it. But in my mind, Zul'jin now has two choices. On the one hand, he can fess up, he can own up, he can admit that in all the things that he believed that he was wrong and that he killed his uncle and that he has to, like, you know, own up to what he's done. Or he can listen to those sweet whispers of Malakras, double down, and go claim the power of Ulatek. Because ultimately, if Ulatek is really going to reclaim that glorious empire that he heard about, Uncle's death was going to be worth it, right? Even his sister would be able to see that this was worth it. And he does. He listens to Malakras, takes the dagger, goes away, which leads us into 12.1, where we get a cutscene. He takes the boat to this isle that was covered by mist and whatnot, and they talk about the history. And just before he opens up the temple, a vision hits him where he sees his people burning, and there's like, he's terrified. He's in over his head. He's like, oh no, I don't really want to do this. But then there's Malakras whispering to him, and he's like, all right, for the glory of the Amani, we're gonna do this. We're gonna open this. And that leads us into 12.1, where there's now a whole bunch of snakes collecting his people and sacrificing them for the glory of Ulatek. And he is working on releasing the power of Ulatek. And amongst the journey, Zul'jara goes with us, and she tries to stop him. She tries to talk him out of it, like, come back home. And I've had discussions with people who are like, why doesn't Zul'jara do what a chieftain is supposed to do and claim her brother's head? If this was anybody else, she would have already done so. And I'd argue, like, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Zul'jin is her last remaining family member. She would do anything for him, and in return, he would do anything for her. Because what happens as she tries to pull him out of it, he cuts her with the dagger, and a terrible curse is placed upon her. Like, her life is slowly draining, and when we catch up to him, he is again given a choice. He can either push forward and claim Ulatek, go towards that glorious dream that he has seen, or he can give up the dagger and save his sister's life. And he decides to save his sister's life. He is not too far gone. That is not a price that he's willing to pay. But unfortunately for Zul'jin, at that point, it's already far too late. Malakras' spirit shows up, and he's like, oh, okay, well, if you're not going to do this, I can find a better use for you. And he pulls Zul'jin away, and that's what leads us into the raid, where we need to desperately, hopefully, try to save Zul'jin, as now the dagger's been destroyed, and Zul'jara's life has been saved.
Yeah, and I think the part where Zul'jin saves his sister, and then Malakras is just like, what's up? And then he like pulls her or pulls him down. I think that it almost gave me like the Sour Fang vibes of ICC, where he's like, they were kind of going for that, and then they're just like, it's my family member that's been taken by the Lich King or Malak, right? It's that same type of thing. And then he's like, Draenosh, it's whatever, or whatever the dialogue he says. But like, to me, again, that's more like paced out over a long time, and like you have like different things. This just feels very like you said, the pacing problem, where it's just like, and there it is, and then it's like done. Like it doesn't have time to kind of cook and like, you know, hit you hard enough that it like really matters even. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah. And what I would have loved to have seen was more on Zul'jin's side, because by the time that we catch up to Zul'jin and he tries to make the turnaround, any agency that he has left is taken away. At that point, Malakras yoinks him away, and there's nothing really left for Zul'jin to do. And what I really like about his character, as I spoke about earlier, is that he has valid points. Not wanting to trust in the Loa is very valid. Not wanting to ally with the Blood Elves is very valid. Even in 12.1, we see that the Loa are unable to join us at the island. He is right. We see that Orgrimmar is unwilling to send reinforcements. He is right. But we don't deal with that at all anymore. It's completely pushed to the side, as in, we need to stop Malakras and Ulatek, and Zul'jin has nothing left more to say, which I find such a shame for the storyline build-up. And like you said, with more time to cook, we could have delved deeper into those things. Because yeah, it's like, we gotta do this.
Yeah, and it's, and I think that's one of the points I even brought up in my video, is I was like, people just want more characters like that, where it's a very realistic type of grounded character that's like, hey, you know what, I believe this thing, and sure, you can agree with them, like, hey, you know what, they're making some valid points, but now they're gonna go about solving those issues in the wrong way. But you get that sense of relatability because you're like, hey, you know what, I can see where they're coming from. Unlike Xal'atath, where you're like, I don't know what she's doing. It just creates a better character in general, either whether a hero or a villain.
Yeah, but like what I do find really interesting is how different people come at this character and their interpretations. Because for me, it was like almost set in stone, like he is trying to do what is best for his people. But then I see someone else react to this, and they're like, no. Zul'Jin does not care about his people at all. This is purely his own ego, and he does not care about them. I was like, I have such a different take on that. So I actually went to Twitter and asked people, and it was a near 50-50 reaction. Like 50% he did it for himself, 50% he did it for the Amani. And I'm like, that's so cool that there's something to be said about it. And what I like, ultimately, not every character needs a redemption story. But what I'm missing in this storyline, and maybe it's still to come, I don't know what the story is going to bring, but what I'm missing is that the relationship with the Loa is not dealt with in the storyline. It's just like, oh yeah, we're back now and everything is fine and dandy. But it's like, hang on, what about those decades where you weren't around? And the same with the Blood Hells. Like, we have this allegiance now, it's all fine and dandy. But hang on, he still didn't show up to help out with Ulatek. Like, are we still going to be working together on this one? And I just really wish that those topics, that they could have gone into that. And when it comes to like a character of Zul'Jin, for the life of me, I do not understand that they invest so much time in building him up, in creating these interesting characters where you have multiple views on it. Because I didn't imagine these lines. I didn't imagine the storyline. It's literally written down. So there's a lot of time, a lot of investments, and all of it boils down to very simple dialogue where he goes like, "I am wrong, Zul'Jara. You were right. You must now kill me." And it's like, really? Is that really the best dialogue you could have come up with? No nuance, no nothing, nah, it's just, Zul'Jara, you were right. I am sorry. So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, I guess. If you say so, cool. It gives me, you know how with Netflix, they're writing shows now with the anticipation that somebody's browsing on their phone?
Yep.
That's the vibe it gives me, where it's like, audience, are you paying attention? Zul'Jin was wrong and Zul'Jara was right. And I'm like, really? Is that really what we're building up towards?
Yeah, there's like no nuance. There's no like undertones. It's I remember the one quest that stands out is when you're in Zulaman with Lady Leadrin, and it might just be her, maybe Zul'Jar is there, but you find the Tiger Loa, and it's all foggy.
Yep.
And you find them, and he's like, I see you've pierced my veil and whatever. And she goes, "You're the one who created the fog." And I'm like, no shit. He just told us. Like, you know, I hate, it's like they're just doubling down. It's like unnecessary dialogue. Like, it just feels like it's just there to, like, just in case you didn't pick up on this. And it's like, that's the whole fun of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same with, now that you mentioned, like, there's also Arator in the beginning where you go through the forest and he just spells out like, oh, the Amani are not invaders. This used to be their land. And it's like, yeah, I just watched the cutscene where they basically talked about how it is. Thank you for spelling it out, though. That's very sweet of you.
Yeah. It's honestly, it gives me like Star Wars prequel vibes where he's just like, from my perspective, the Jedi are evil. Like that type of dialogue. And it's just, but here's the thing. Like, even though I say all this, I enjoyed playing through the island quests and like helping like all of them with all their stuff. Like, I actually thought it was fun. I enjoyed playing through the story up until the payoffs, really.
I am exactly the same, which is why it's so weird. I love the leveling in Amani. I love 1207, 12.1. I love the reveal. I love how to use it. I love Zul'Jara. I love Zul'Jin. I love the gameplay. And the raid is a banger. And that is why it is so flabbergastingly weird that the ending is such a ball drop. We're like, how? Yeah. There is no way that the same people who worked on all the previous stuff also worked on this. I dare not say that is the thing.
It almost, like, honestly, it gives me the vibe of like there's just so many like eyes looking on this and like changing it and being like, it should end like this, or it should be like this. We shouldn't have any of this stuff. Like, it feels like there's like someone overlooking all of it, making sure it like happens that way.
There is actually room for that, because we have early interviews where they said like Zul'Jara and Zul'Jin are being built up for more than just a midnight, not a flash in the pan, like they should be going forward. We have dialogue in-game where Zul'Jin keeps repeating about how he is the thinker, whereas his sister is the fighter. Meanwhile, he is the one who keeps constantly charging into battle head first, and it's like, are you the brains? Are you sure? And it seems like there's somewhere along the way, like, again, it's such a departure from the build-up that is like, it feels multiple cooks working on the same storyline. And yeah, the oversight, like, do you all line it up in the same vein? And this is a minor detail. But here's the thing, right? We have the dagger storyline, and the dagger has been told that the dagger is need to be used to unleash Ulatek. And so we go to the Isle, but Ulatek's not been released yet. If you read the dungeon journal, it says that Zul'jin is gathering power to unleash the ultimate weapon. In the dungeon, he then gives up the dagger to save his sister. So how do they still release Ulatek then?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I wish. Tell me, Crendor, how?
It might have been Sylvanas, honestly. You never know. But like even what you just mentioned, where he's like, I'm the thinker or whatever. I don't even mind that from a character perspective, because I mean, there's plenty of times in real life someone's like, I'm pretty confident, but they think they're confident, but they're not really confident. You know what I mean? It's like that type of thing.
Yeah, but then there's other content where, for example, he's talking to Malakras about the history of the Amani, and he is very clever in their dialogue where he like asks questions. So there seems to be a little bit of on the one hand, he is like the thinker and the schemer and the whatnot, and on the other times he's like, I'm gonna go into battle now. But fair enough. There's definitely part of I'm the thinker, but ...
Yeah, but I think a good way to go about that is he keeps being like, I'm the thinker, and he's charging into battle, and someone calls him out on it and goes like, if you're so much of a thinker, why are you charging into battle? Why are you doing this? You're not a thinker at all. And someone calls him out. I think that's the way you go about and then he's just like, you know what? I don't even like you. And he's just like mad because he got proved wrong or something like that.
Yeah, like you're supposed to be the smart one, right? Like, yeah.
So one of my favorite quests, a lot of people love the quest where you play as the priestess from back in the day that's like sacrificing all her own people.
Yeah.
Right? I forgot, what is her name?
Nexali.
Yeah.
Oh, good job, Brain. Woo, good job.
And I love that because it was just like you're playing as her and you're just like going around. That was like a fantastic quest. And I think that's actually a great way to even teach people lore or have people get caught up on lore, is doing little quests like that, where you can go back and be like, hey, this happened in World of Warcraft history, play through it a little bit, which I guess they kind of did a little bit with the Lore Walker Cho thing they brought in. But I wish they would do more of that, is my thing. But
like this. I was gonna say, like, the scenario was awesome to play through, and a great details in it as well. What's really cool is there's a tablet, a lore tablet in that temple. Before you go into that vision, the tablet is all worn out. You can't read the text. Once you're in there, you can read the text because it's a new tablet.
Oh,
like,
that is cool.
That's such a cool detail.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say, like, I really wish that it was part of this this adventure, would have been to have Zalotov in the hands of a Kifix. Because right now, a lot of people are questioning, like, okay, what does Zulaman have to do with Zalotov, right? And if you haven't read the Scrolls of Lore back in Legion connected to the Blade, you do not know the connection between Kifix and Zalotov. And so you're like, is there still a connection there?
Well, what is the connection?
The connection is that Kifix is a creature of the old gods, and as mentioned, he was wielding Zalotov as an artifact, and with her in hand, he was causing like this whole troll war with the Akir, and the Yamani defeated him. Now, what we know is that Zalotov was not a big fan of the old gods, so why would you want to help out Kifix? Cause chaos for the old gods. That doesn't seem to be her motive. But we also know that Zalotov is a big fan of putting little schemes and things at play. Could we imagine a scenario where she purposely put Kefix on the path against the Yamani, and maybe she was whispering to Nexali, maybe she was whispering to somebody, because this is something that she wanted to happen, the foundation of the Yamani Empire upon the bones of Kifix, because underneath Zulaman, underneath like the Ulatek domain and all that, there is still Kifix. Kifix is not gone, he is still underneath the land. So that darkness is still lurking there and potentially going to be explored further. So could it be that, not so much like predicting the future, because I would not be a fan if she can like 100% predict the future, but more so, could it be that one of the pots that she put on the stove is this history with Kifix and the Yamani, and now that she needs a distraction, now that she needs us to be occupied, could she be pulling on this string, the Kifix-Ulatek connection? Because again, Ulatek came to be because Kifix was around. So how did they summon Ulatek to begin with? How did the dagger of Ulatek, which is the fang of Ulatek, how did that end up in the hands of Nexali if this was the first time that they summoned Ulatek? It wasn't the first time. So how did they get the dagger, right?
Yeah.
There's also people wondering, like, maybe that mask of Malakras that is now influencing Zul'jin, maybe that mask was actually picked up and dropped off by Zalotov. Like, there are little speculations, like, ooh, there are little things here. But safe to say, I don't think it's coincidence that Zolotov was part of Kifix in the same way that Zolotov was part of. Do you remember the War Within, where the Irvin became like corrupted and it became like Skardin?
Yep.
And Magni had to like sacrifice himself. She was responsible for that, back with Modgood.
Oh.
So these are little things that she's done in the past that are now coming into play.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool, which is probably why it's not real.
Let me believe, okay?
Yeah. So now we get to my part about consequences, all right?
Yeah.
So Orwena, after you do that quest, becomes like possessed by her, right? And she like you have to fight her. That's what happens, right? I'm not misremembering.
No, that's absolutely, yeah.
Yep. And so after that, she's just like fine, which I thought was just weird because I'm like, first off, you just got possessed by this like ancient deity or ghost or whatever the hell it is. And then she gets fought by us who are like, you know, champion. I was like, shouldn't she be like shocked or tired or just some sort of like worn out, like, oh my God, whatever. She's just like, hey, let's get back. And I'm just like, what? And I saw someone be like, well, yeah, you know, she it's not bad because like she can read signs and stuff. I'm like, okay, this isn't just reading signs. This is like you have been possessed by like an ancient being and
Wait,
then
she can read
attacked.
signs? What? Read
Or
what?
I guess someone was saying like she can read the like Haranir prophecies or hears the voices or something. So she
Yeah, but like that doesn't invalidate your point at all. Because honestly, I hadn't even considered this, but you are 100% right. Of course you are. Why didn't she feel like, oh, you actually beat the snot out of me, I'm hurting, or oh my God, I literally just got possessed? No. It's literally just onwards to the next thing.
Yeah, and it's like, well, did you see anything? Like, what were you like? What? Like, tell me. And it was just like they just glance over it, like whatever. And I'm like, that would have been such a cool thing.
That part, she, if you click on her, like she does have dialogue, she have knowledge from the spirit. So there is an effect as to what happened when she was possessed, because their memories like crossed over. So she learned who Nexali was and how Nexali felt when she was starving to her death and like trying to crawl out of the tomb. So she learned a lot of inside information as to what Nexali is about. But it does not mean that the whole part about, you know, you just literally got possessed. Why are you acting like this is another day? To be fair, maybe for Orwena, this is just another day on Azeroth.
Yeah.
Maybe
She's running on adrenaline. Like, I don't know, but it was just, it
it's
felt
very
a
fair,
little off.
Yeah, it's very fair. Like, yeah, you should have a reaction to this. Huh.
But my big consequence here, all right, this is what I've built up towards, is we had Zul'Jara, who has been cut by the blade, all right? So she's like poisoned or cursed or whatever it might be, and they're like, she's dying, all right? Like, this is the worst. This is so bad. And then we get the blade back and we break it, and she's like, hey, I'm good. The same way that we just had her just be like, yeah, I'm good. And that was honestly the part of this patch that I hated the most. Because that was such a missed opportunity. And it ties back into the consequences where I'm like, back in the day, right, we had Arthas, who like, he goes through all the stuff he did and he had to pay the price. We have Sylvanas, who I said in my video, if this was a modern game, she'd have Banshee resistance. She wouldn't even become a Banshee. And this ties into that perfectly, because I was like, you had her right here and a chance to like make her like this in-depth character because of what happened. Like, she tried to defend, or, you know, they were like, you need to take out your brother. And she's like, no, I'm going to try to defend them. And instead of paying the consequences for her actions of being like, no, I believe in family, I trust in family, they're just like, no, you're good. And I was like, dude, how cool would it have been if her grandfather, okay, Zul'Jin, who has one arm, they take Zul'Jara and they're like, listen, like, we can break the blade, but your arm's gonna go with it. And she's just like, you know what? I don't care, do it. This is like for my brother and like all this stuff. And they do it, and then she loses her arm, and they're just like, dude, oh man, that sucks. I'm so sorry you don't get your arm. And it's just like, you're doing the mirroring of her grandfather with one arm, but now she is like the new era with one arm, but she's gonna be like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna let revenge against my brother or anyone doing this to me, like, make me become evil or anything. Like, I'm gonna rise above this. And so then from here on out, she has one arm, but it's like that's always her reminder of like, hey, you know what? I did this for my brother and my family, and I'm not gonna be like my grandfather with one arm. And I was like, that was right there. What are you doing? And it creates a good character because you're like, oh wow, like now she has that for the rest of her days, and we always remember back to that. Like it blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I 100% agree with you. That would have been such a sick sacrifice and a mirror of, you know, with her grandfather and all that. Yeah, would have been awesome. An actual consequence to that curse. Yeah.
Yeah.
1000% agree.
And it's like,
What?
Because I was even thinking, like, was she gonna have like a snake arm? Is she gonna have like venom arm? Like, maybe because I know in like a movie like Princess Mononoke from Studio Ghibli, it's cursed with his arm, and it's like this demon arm, but like it's really good at fighting, and he's always trying to fight against it. Of like, I don't want my arm to fight, I don't want to kill, but it's like kind of acting on its own. I'm like, they could have went that way, where she's like, I've got this curse in my arm, and it's always trying to do whatever unless I like chop it off. Like, there's so many cool angles they could have went with it, and instead it was just like, nah, whatever.
Yeah, that's very, like, honestly, you kind of make me open my eyes and go like, huh, have I been in WoW lore so long that I don't even recognize those moments anymore? Because, yeah, like, why wasn't there more of a consequence to that curse? It just, like, there was pain and there was suffering and there was almost sacrificing herself to save her brother. That part was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then once we got the dagger, it's like, yeah, it's resolved, it's solved, it's let's get over with. Now, there is something to be said about how she's willing to let so many people die in favor of saving her brother, right?
Yeah.
Because her brother is her weak spot, is the one that she just can't chop off his head, even though she know that she should have.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
this
mean,
whole arm loss plot, Blizzard, why? I want to see this in a cutscene. It would have been so sick.
Exactly. And I mean, we had that before in Warcraft with Malfurion, where he's like, I should be saving everyone, but Tyrande. And then he like chooses her over Maiev, who's just like, take him out, kill Illidan. And then she's like, or he's just like, no. And also, I say Tyrande, which I think people make fun of, because in the Emerald Dream or Nightmare, it's always he's like Tyrande, but apparently that was the what's his name, the Xavius.
Oh yeah, yes, maybe. But then again, pronunciation in WoW, you should ask Metzen how you pronounce shaman instead of shaman, or one of the earlier cutscenes where it's Archmage, not Khadgar but Khadgar, and it's like, you know, pronunciation. They couldn't even get Draenor and dragons right. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of my thing. Is it reminds me of the Malfurion bit where it's like, hey, he chooses to save Tyrande over killing Illidan or imprisoning him again. But what does that do? It makes it so Illidan goes off and does all the shit he does. And it's like we get to the modern WoW setting where it's like she chooses her brother over the sake of everyone and setting loose the Ulatek or whatever, and instead of paying a price like her arm or some sort of consequence, she's just fine. And I hate that, because that's what builds good character like that. I mean, like
you could argue like like I agree with the whole curse, and like it would have been really cool to see her make that personal sacrifice, but you could argue that the consequence of letting her brother go is 12.1. If she would have been a more resolved leader and had taken care of Zul'jin from the first moment that he took their army against her orders, she could have potentially prevented the release of Ulatek, the kidnapping of their people, the snake experiments, the suffering. So the comparison between letting Illidan go and all the things that Illidan did, you could argue that Zul'jara let Zul'jin go far, far, far too deep in his own things, and therefore we ended up with 12.1.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, my main thing's the arm. I just thought it'd been cool as well.
Yeah, arm 1000%. Like that would have been so sick. Yeah. And individual consequences. Now, of course, it's very much like, what is the aftermath of this going to be? Like, are the Amani going to turn around and go like, Zul'jara, you are unworthy to be your chieftain? That's never going to happen. But that would have been sick, right? Like that would be, okay, consequence. Now, I will say, I love that Orwena also acknowledges like we as the Heronir have messed up. But do we realistically think anybody's going to go to the Heronir and go like, yeah, you're out of the Alliance and the Horde, you all messed up, or there's punishment for it? Like, nah. And in that regard, yes, there should have been a lot more consequences. And also to that reaction, I focused a lot on the choice bit, but I was also told in the comments, like, you were talking about plot armor. You were talking about, in a realistic setting, there would have been consequence to their actions further than what they're given right now. And to that, I'm like, oh, yeah, there is actually a lot of examples of that.
Yeah. no, it's and this is just another one to add to the the bucket of examples, I guess. But then we get to the ending dialogue, which I didn't even see up until you released your video today or yesterday. And
yeah, story mode releases tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, and I saw the ending thing between Zul'Jara and Lady Liadrin, and I read each line of dialogue, and I wanted to ask you about it because you play the dialogue in your video at the end of it, but I want to like, because I got some questions.
Yes.
So Zul'Jara says, quote, Zul'Jan wasn't the easiest brother to live with, always getting into trouble and needing me to pull him out of it. So I was like, what was he doing? Was he like, what other crazy things was he doing? Was he just like getting stuck up in the trees? Was he like, I don't know. It seems like he was just constantly failing or goofing off, which in that case, I feel like she should have been more proactive in stopping him from doing this, because it's like he's done this 100 times. I guess he's gonna do it 101.
This one is left from in-game. It's left up for interpretation, as in she's sharing more of what a relationship and a history was with Zul'Jan. So your question as to, okay, what exactly did he do? I don't believe they've given an exact story or example. What they have done is they've given us a comic on the WoW website, which I think sucks because nothing in-game references it. Like, if you don't do the outside thing, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier, you know that dialogue where Zul'Jan is like, do you remember the color of the winds, and like rushing after each other? That references that comic. That his end dialogue references an outside source that is not part of the game. That normal players have no clue about. But that is where you learn a lot about their different visions when it comes to the Yamani Empire and the fallout of their grandfather dying. And then we also have another short story in which their mother was still alive as Zul'Jara went to claim a weapon. And they talk a little bit about what life is like for Zul'Jan, and how, even though he's in her shadow, it's not he wants to claim power or stab her in the back. He is perfectly fine supporting her. But again, this dialogue, this RP specific, I think this is more in this moment where she's giving us this new information as to this was what life was like with Zul'Jan, and the specifics are for you to fill in. Like, what would you imagine when Zul'Jara tells you, I had to pull him out of trouble? I don't think that every month he was unleashing Ulatek or some other ancient force. I think she's more referencing to he got into fights with people, or he got himself stuck in a cave, or stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get that. It's just, it feels like a weird thing to say after he just died, and you like did all that. She's like, he's always getting into trouble, and he just did it one more time, and should have helped him.
That entire dialogue is weird because it's sure in your notes as well. But then Liadrin goes like, "Yeah, I didn't like him or his friends," and it's like, he just died. What?
It is really weird, but also just to also bring up that point of, can we just stop putting important stuff in like comics and books and things that you can't even find unless you like go out, like just put it in the game somehow, or like reference it. Like, again, like I mentioned that in my video, but I don't mind if they do comics or books or these things if it's kind of like things that don't really matter to the story that much. Like, it's like you can make a book about Tuskar of like, this is what Tuskar like to eat. This is the everyday thing of a Tuskar, but don't like make it so like the Tuskar were corrupted by Sylvanas and the Age thing, and then it's like, oh, I remember when it's like some sort of important thing you need to know. Like, don't put that in like a comic or a book. Like, why? It just makes it more complicated.
And if you are going to, why not build a system which brings up like an in-game window in WoW and like plays the thing? Because it's fully narrated, mind you. They have this awesome dialogue between Lorfmar and the Grizzled, where honestly, it's some of the best dialogue they've produced lately. And it's just an audio drama on a WoW website. It has like 30,000 views. It's nothing. There's the comic, like I mentioned. Why not have an option like, I'm thinking about my life with Zul'Jan growing up, and then you can click on it and you have the comic play.
Yeah.
I don't understand. You put in so much effort and then you lock it away out of the game. It's wild.
It is. It just feels like missed opportunities or just like mismanagement of the things. But carrying on then, she says, no, I always thought he needed me, but maybe I needed him to protect him. And I don't understand what that means. So, because she says, no, I always thought he needed me, but maybe I needed him. But like, how did she need him? It doesn't seem like she needed him at all.
I think it references to the first line where she's like, I always had to pull him out of trouble, so I thought that he needed me. But actually, I needed him in my life to be there, be at her side, like not in her shadow, but be at her side, be to push her on, to guide her, like recognize that she needed him much more than that she gave him credit for in their life. My interpretation, mind you, is I didn't write it. It's my interpretation.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I got too. It's just worded very oddly. You know, it's just like, I always thought he needed me, but maybe I needed him to protect him. It's like I needed this person to protect them. So it's like a weird. It just feels off. Like it doesn't. They could have worded it better.
Yeah, but like, again, interpretation where it's like, you know, he is the reason why I was able to rise up above my station to go further and beyond, because I had somebody to protect and care for, the last member of my family.
Yeah.
But again, it's the vibe that you're getting from it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that would, like, if they would have said what you just said, I'd have been like, great. Like, that makes sense. Because then she says he always acted like he had a ghost over his shoulder, like he had to make our ancestors proud. But like, that line's fine. I don't mind that line.
Also, with that line, people are wondering, like, will we see Zul'Jin return as a Loa to be like a ghost behind Zul'Jara's shoulder?
Oh, like a force ghost? Like a Yoda?
Like a force ghost? Like a Loa ghost is like, I hated the Loa, and now I am one. Oh my god.
Which, honestly, I would love if he came back as a ghost, and he's just like, you know, if he got that blade, put it back together, maybe we could... She's just like, oh my god.
Oh my god, it's Ghost Zul'Jin. Please leave me alone.
And then she just says, I just wish I'd told him he didn't need to. But like, that doesn't make sense to me. Because I don't think if you told him he didn't need to, it would change him. Because like, it's clear that there's a deeper reason behind why he's doing the things he's doing. It's like telling somebody like, hey, you know what? You don't have to have anxiety. Well, like, no shit. I don't want anxiety. You know what I mean? It just feels like just tell him, just say don't be depressed. It'll be good. It gives me those vibes, and it's just like, what do you mean just tell him? Like, I don't like that.
Like, again, interpretation is that if you see somebody with a chip on their shoulder, it's lamenting like she can no longer talk to him. And what if she had given him more time, more attention? What if she had told him words of encouragement like, you don't need to do this? Then again, I will argue from their short story that they gave us, like the one where I was like, you know, Zul'Jin didn't feel bad about being in her shadow. To me, their relationship was not that strained. I never got the vibe that Zul'Jin hated Zul'Jara. Quite the opposite. He respected her. He supported her. It's just that he didn't agree on her vision. Yeah. So the strained relationship that they're trying to build up in 07 and 1201, or 12.1, it seems to be not entirely out of left field, but it does seem to be a bit more, again, time to cook, you know, if you wanted me to believe like, oh yeah, they actually have a strained relationship, because they don't really go into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he literally gives up the blade because he's like, I gotta save her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's that strained if he's gonna do that. But then we get to Lady Leadrin, who says, well, she says, I have lost many who are dear to me, some of them to the same Amani who Zul'Jin idolized. And this felt like a weird one. First off, when she says, I have lost many who are dear to me, I was going to ask you, like, who did she lose? Because I don't know.
I believe it was her parents that she lost to the Amani. I have to double check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, check it. Because I was just like...
She grew up as an orphan by the priestess who raised her. Leodrin parents. Let me check.
All right.
Leodrin's parents were slain by Amani trolls, towards whom the young high elf developed disdain, and she then was raised by High Priest Vandalor. Yay!
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So that's true. And then she says, some of them to the Amani. Well, wouldn't she just mean... Isn't that like everyone to the Amani? I guess there'd be more she would love that she'd lose. But she says the Amani who Zul'Jin idolized, which is like a weird statement because it's almost like she's referring to like the Zul'Jin Amani, like the old ways, and then there's like, I guess Zul'Jara's the new ways. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Like,
yeah.
It's
like the idea is Zul'Jin, and this is the vibe that they're... So, okay. we learn as we go into Amani territory in 12.0 that what we see in Zulaman are basically like the ones that don't want to fight anymore. They're the ones that are seeking just they want to live their lives. They don't want to go constantly to war and conflict, which I can kind of understand, you know.
Mhm.
But then there are also that still follow Zuljin. Oh, sorry, Zul'Jun, as he rallies the troops and is like, we need to fight, right? So there's still fighters among them, but it's definitely the idea of Malakras and grandfather Zuljin that are portrayed as the bad guys. And in that regard, I think that there's a lot more to be said about that rather than they are the bad guys.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, this is Liadrin. Liadrin who had to deal with Zuljin's raiding parties, with Zuljin leading the horde into elven lands, with her parents dying. To her, worshipping someone like Zuljin, yeah, like I can understand that she would go like, yeah, no, those are bad people. You should not worship or idolize those.
Yeah, that's fair. I think my big thing is, was he like truly idolizing them? Or was he just
Yeah,
kind of...
Zul'Jun. Oh yeah.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Oh, full on. Like where a Zul'Jara blamed her grandfather for breaking the relationship with the Loa, and it's like, I'm not, you know, Zuljin didn't want to believe those stories. And even if he did believe those stories, like grandfather did it for a good reason. He wanted to go back to the glory of the Amani Empire. What do you mean we're going to work together with Gokinje? What do you mean we're going to go back to the Loa? We should dominate, we should control. He definitely saw his grandfather as a hero. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Then that's not a bad line then. Then we get to the pain of watching them
I mean,
die.
to be fair, sorry, to go
Okay.
back to that. I read comments where people go like, read the room, Liadrin. She just lost her brother.
Well, yeah,
Why
that's
are
true
you going
too.
like, oh yeah, you know, his bros, he's idolizing his. He wasn't that great, was he? Like, okay, she just
Yeah.
lost her brother. Come on.
No,
But
yeah,
yes.
that's... Yeah, in that aspect, that is kind of a douchey line. Which, like, I guess you could kind of say that is just, like, from a character perspective. Like, she's just, like, saying that as, like, she doesn't truly care because she's thinking about all the bad things that happen. You know what I mean? So she's not really thinking in the moment, like, hey, you just lost your brother, that sucks. It's just giving her flashbacks of, like, her parents dying and, like, Zuljin, and she's just like, yeah, that F that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting line overall. But then we get the pain of watching them die, guilt over not being able to prevent it. I won't pretend it ever goes away. That's fine. Do you think that's fine? I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you can't see me nodding. See, this is why we should turn on
Yeah.
cameras. You can like, I'm nodding.
That's true. We could always do cameras, but then she says, but I found what eases it is believing our loved ones never truly leave us. They're watching over us even now. And that one I had questions about, because I was like, well, what's supposed to happen when people die, like blood out? Like, doesn't everyone believe in different things of when they die? Or like, because we know there's things like Shadowlands and there's things like the Void and the Twisting Nether, and like you were mentioning earlier, like all this stuff. Like, what technically would she believe happens when you die as a blood elf?
Very comparable to real life. Everybody will have their own belief system when it comes to what happens when you pass on. Despite something like the Shadowlands full-on explaining to us the intricate details as to this is how the afterlife works in WoW, which is something that they're building up to deconstruct, mind you. Something like, Grimoire of the Shadowlands. It's a book, and in that book, they give us more details as to how mortal civilizations look upon the afterlife. And in that book, we follow the broker who is doing like interviews and what do you believe, and he kind of makes fun of, for example, the Tarn thinking about ancestors and like watching over them and all that. He kind of makes fun of that, but it does indicate that to the Tarn, they still have their own beliefs and their own religions and their own way of thinking, like this is what happens when you pass on. And honestly, I find it a lot better storytelling to go like, well, actually, we don't have to mourn Zuljun. We can just hop into the Shadowlands. We can talk to the new Arbiter and be like, hey, listen, right? Have you seen like a troll spirit fly by? We kind of want to bring it back. Like, that is not fun. And that's one of the major issues with the Shadowlands.
Yeah.
So in the case of Liadrin, she apparently believes that those who pass on are always watching us, guiding us. They're with us. Their love will never leave us. That's what Liadrin believes. And that's what she shares on here. What's supposed to happen? I mean, if you ask the Heronir, they think you become part of Azeroth again. The Heronir believe that you become part of with the goddess. If you ask the Tauren, is like the ancestors to watch over you. Ancestors watch over you. You know, that kind of stuff. In the case of the in the case of the orcs, we've seen them being eaten by the Naru, but we also definitely know that there are like ancestor spirits and that they communicate with and ask guidance for. Very much depends on who you ask and what they believe in, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's I like that as well, where it's just like numerous different beliefs of what happens, and everything, because it's very like realistic as well, and I enjoy that because it also makes the world feel more grounded and kind of like you're in this world with so many different beliefs and cultures and races and civilizations, and I like that.
Yeah, if we're talking about like consequences on expanding your rules, though, like realistically, and I mentioned this during the Shadowlands period as well. Realistically, what should have happened with the Shadowlands is that knowledge of the afterlife would have spread among civilization, and now cults are forming, and people are dedicating their mortal lives for eternal afterlife. People would turn into hippies, start hugging trees, because then they get to hang out with the Winter Queen and an Ardawield. Like, realistically speaking, that is what you would imagine would happen, or that the consequences of going so intricately into it. But then again, this is also a world where a gigantic space Satan can penetrate your world with a sword, and nobody bats an eye about it. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of both time travel or like afterlife stuff in a lot of like fantasy video game thing, and I think that's part of the reason is it muddies a lot of the water quite a bit. It seems like.
It requires attention to detail and really secure storytelling, especially when it comes to time travel. Because time travel is a fantasy setting, so it has different rules you can apply, but you need to be consistent in the rules that you apply to it, as well as in the glory that is World of Warcraft and the Blizzard writing team. They decided that not only are we going to do time travel, we're also going to do alternate realities, and we're going to make it so that the twisting nether transcends alternate realities and realities in general. It's like, really? the triple whammy? Okay, cool, let's do that.
Yeah, no, and that just also complicates learning about the lore as well.
Oh, yes. And then, for example, we asked in the Shadowlands, like, okay, so we know that there are multiple realities out there. That means that there are multiple copies of a soul. How do you pass judgment on where a soul goes? And instead of saying, like, you know, the copies go to the individual realms, you would never be able to tell who goes where. Instead, they went with this explanation that a soul is a rope. And all these multiple realities, the souls are part of that rope and they combine into one. But that doesn't work because we have a Garrosh that in our reality, our Garrosh got punished. But we also know that in a different reality, Garrosh was like the bestest war chief ever. And another reality, Garrosh is like a light zealot in the army. So how do you pass the same judgment on one soul? And it's like, these are just detailed, intricate questions that are just not thought about when you're dealing with this. And yeah, like you said, these topics, time travel and afterlife, and there are certain rules in your universe, especially in a fantasy setting, that you need to be secure about. And if you are going to dive into it, be careful with it, right? Tread carefully.
Yeah, it's exactly. So that's really the reason I don't like it, is everything you mentioned. It's a lot to take on, and then if you mess it up, you get to where we currently are.
And a counterpart, I will say, like checking out alternate realities, like they've done in the book, like alternate scenarios, one where Thrall never rose up and never reformed the Horde, and instead he led the Horde in leadership of Blackmoor. That was cool because now you have this alternate Thrall running around, but it didn't have like massive implementations, or going back in time and learning all about the War of the Ancients, and then the timeline actually shifting and changing. There are moments in time that it's actually done really well. It's just, at the same time, we also now have Queen Alicent back from Dragonflight, where she has knowledge of the future, and she is cruising the timeways. And that's still a story that needs to be resolved at some point. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with that one.
If they do anything.
If they're going to do anything, yes.
Yeah, because... I mean, speaking of that, even with a lot of people, rumor Classic Plus will probably be like, what if the Dark Portal never opened type of thing or something like that. So that almost is an alternate reality, but in a setting that makes sense.
Yeah, and people have asked as well, like, how do you want them to do it? I wanted them to do it like Season of Discovery, where they were very clear, like, this is our own thing. We're not messing with the canon. We're going to pull on the canon, but we're going to do our own thing. I'm like, yes, do that. That is so much easier and so much more fun.
Yeah, no, I hope they do that as well.
Oh, I can't wait for
So,
Classic Plus announcements. But that is a
yeah,
different topic.
that is. I'm excited too. Because that's really all I've wanted with Classic. I'm like, dude, if we had Classic, but just like more stuff.
Yes.
So then we have our final 2 lines of dialogue, which, perhaps having a ghost over your shoulder isn't always a bad thing. You just have to listen to the right ghosts, which just sounds like an insane thing to say after, again, like her brother just died. And it's just like, what? Like, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, your brother was let down the dark path. Like I get that it comes from a part of wanting to be nice because ghosts and spirits and Loa and guidance and advice. It's a matter of what inner voices do you tend to and listen to. But again, as I mentioned, people have taken this dialogue and is like, this was put in there with purpose because they want to bring back Zul'jin as a ghost. Maybe that will make it better, but yeah, it's a thing to say. Yeah.
It just kind of sounds like to me when I hear that, it sounds like, hey, you know what? Even though he died, like at least he's gonna be like a cool ghost to have. Like it's just like, oh, okay, that's good.
I took it more like your past does not define you, and while both of you grew up in the same darkness that grandfather left behind, the inner voices that Zul'jara listens to has led her to opening her heart to the Loa and guiding her people in a different path. Not all ghosts are going to lead you into unleashing an Ulatek. That's how I took that one. Like, that inner voice, that history, it shapes you in a different way. You make choices.
Well, that would have been a better way of putting it if she said that. Again,
I am full on headcanon in it. Yeah.
Because that to me, that line just kind of sounds like a Marvel dialogue, which I think is a lot of times when people say like, wow, it's just like Disney Marvel. It's like those types of lines where it's like, I'd rather they go down the path you just went down, where it's a little more descriptive and like personal, I guess. Instead of like witty types of dialogue like that. And in fact, they do that a lot in like Hallmark movies where they banter back and forth. Oh, you just think I'm not good at playing pool. And he's like, well, I never said you were good at playing pool, but I could. And it's just like that type of like witty, like, and I hate that because it doesn't feel realistic. And some people don't mind it because some people don't care about the realism of like the thing. They're just like, hey, you know what? I'm just playing the game. I don't really care, whatever. But like, that's the type of stuff that I'd prefer. And I mean, even going back, like Warcraft 3 and a lot of those, they don't have the greatest dialogue either. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like go back and defend that because there's like some lines of dialogue in there that are like cringy.
I mean, okay, fair. There's definitely some dialogue. I was about to say like there are some banger lines though, like, what are you doing, my son? Succeeding you, father.
Yeah, no, there's some good lines. I'm not saying there's not. Yeah. I'm saying there's also a lot of cringy lines from going back and seeing a lot.
I would argue that Warcraft, especially World of Warcraft, does best with one-liners like an Illidan. Rather than, and I mean, it's also very much a time and place. Like Leodin's dialogue, the whole banter. There's, for example, Umbric, who also banters with Romuff, and I'm like, oh, actually, in their case, I think it's kind of cute how they're bantering with each other. Time and place definitely matters. Like she just lost her brother, but that also flows in like consequences and like realistically reacting to a certain situation. And now you brought it up, my mind shoots back to the Shadowlands where Tyrande spoke with the voice of the goddess of Elune. So this is the first time that the goddess, Elune the goddess, I think is like the first time that she actually speaks to their people. And nobody really comments like, our goddess just spoke to us. That was crazy. Like that should be religiously earth-shattering to have your literal god confirmed and inside of Tyrande, and it's like, oh, that's just another day in Azeroth, ain't it?
Yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it. It really is kind of time and place and like the intricacies behind the situation. Like there's a lot that goes into it, and it sometimes feels like they're not paying attention to those when they're writing this stuff. And I think that can make it feel a lot worse. And I think that's what some people mean when they say things like it feels like Marvel, Disney, or whatever. Because listen, I like Disney movies. In fact, like, I don't care. There's plenty of Disney stuff I like, but in fact, Disney has more consequences, I would say, in a lot of the movies. And I think some of it just boils down to what we just said. Like, it's a lot of things just don't feel like they fit the situation, or like the characters aren't acting as they should, you know?
Yeah, and that was also a big part of the reason why I reacted to your video, because I know that you're not part of the crowd of, like, farming clicks for it. So when you share your opinion, it's, pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And personally, I've also, my personal objection when it comes to these storylines is that they seem to be sanding down any and all, what is the term for it? Any and all discontent in the voices. As in, Zul'jin had something to say that was in contrast to Zul'jara. But we can't have that, so we're going to sand that down, and now all we have left are those that agree with Zul'jara. And time again, we see this happen with councils, with factions coming together, and in that, I get that they are, as you also mentioned, like Platinum WoW's video about wrapping it up and getting conclusions and all that. In that, I get that they are working towards something, and we're working towards that big Azeroth coming together moment, because it's gonna happen, like Avengers assemble, and we're gonna
Right.
stand against Uber Darkness. We all know it's gonna come. It's gonna be Renny Lush and all that. It's okay, fine. We're working towards that, and for that to happen, we need to stand together. But the price that you pay is that you are losing your individualism. You are losing what makes your factions and your characters interesting to dive into. In Silvermoon, where now all the elves are housing, and it's sanded down what made the Blood Elves the Blood Elves. It's Gilneas that has opened its doors and now is available for everybody. I miss the individualism, and it doesn't mean that I miss like the Alliance and Horde going at each other, but I miss what it means to be a certain faction or a certain part of the Alliance or part of the Horde, and that it meant something, instead of we're all for Azeroth now and we're all one part, one party, one club, because of being sanded down.
Yeah. And again, that's why I said in my thing, I was like, they're like, for Azeroth. And I'm like, I don't know, I guess. Like, oh, I don't really.
Fine.
And it's, yeah, I think it almost ties into even like how people felt that way with their classes. Where, like, there's a point where people are like, the classes feel too similar. And when you start having that, it gets boring. Because like the variety is the spice of life. Like, that's the whole point. And it just, I don't know. But
let me tell you, the only reason why I could see what part of some of my characters are part of, like what faction, is the icon next to their name. Because otherwise, there's no distinctive difference between them. And I get it, like you made allied races that are part of both the Alliance and the Horde, and you started with the Pandaren, but now nearly all of them are. And I'm like, that choice, and I said this in an old video as well, the choice in the character creation screen used to mean something. And these days, I would argue, not so much, because you can play with each other. You're both part of the same storyline. You don't have individual stories anymore, which I really miss. I miss faction stories so much. You remember Battle for Azeroth, where you had like 2 different leveling paths, and it was like a reason to play both factions?
Yep.
That was awesome. Bring it back, please.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm one of the people who love Battle for Azeroth, but mainly because of the art and the music and the zones. Like, there's some of my favorite that Blizzard's ever done. And there's still plenty to enjoy there, but I think a lot of the features added in BFA and the mechanics of BFA are what made it not great.
People overdosing on island expeditions because they needed Azerite. I get that if you did that, it was a horrible expansion. I agree with you. I really enjoyed Battle for Azeroth. I will never forget what they did with Na'Zoth, but I liked Void Gear. Oh my god, as a paladin, like stack up a Void Gear and bubble and just be Twilight Devastation all over the place. Or the Heart of Azeroth, like the Dragon Ball Beam. I really like that. Yeah, there was some good stuff in there.
Yeah. But then we get to our final line, of course, which is, be careful, Hashura, you're starting to sound like an Amani. Which really just sounds like a very Marvel Reddit one-liner that they like thought up as like a, ho-ho, now you're starting to think like us. And it's like, dude, didn't we just talk about like her brother just died? And like this whole thing, like, why would it feels like something she wouldn't even say after, because she's like depressed, like her brother died. She like, and she's just like, you're starting to sound like an Amani. Like, imagine if like we were playing Warcraft 3 and Jaina, like her father dies, and she's like, hey, you know what? I think you're starting to think like an orc. Like, okay, like, it's just, it doesn't make sense.
shit. She's like, careful, Rexar. You're starting to sound like a human.
Yeah, like it's just it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense that they'd be like, you know, your father was, you know, just being crazy and like he's causing this genocide and all this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just something we have to do. And she's like, I understand. Like, and it's this type of thing where it's just like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry your brother died, and it's like, you know, it's tough, but it's just something that we had to do, and we'll get through it. And she'd be like, hey, thanks. Like, why didn't you just say that? Like, what are you? You're starting to sound like an Amani. Like, I hate that. It's so bad.
But let them know. Let them know what Leodrin said to that. The final line. What does Leodrin say to that comment?
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh, you didn't even know that out?
No.
She says, would that really be so bad?
That's okay. Yeah, you know what? Maybe there's a reason I didn't put that down. That's
or she said, I paraphrase. It's something like, would it really be such a bad thing? And yeah, that final line is in reference to like Leodrin and Zul'Jara coming closer together. But again, the whole cooking and pacing thing. A big criticism that I have to the Amani storyline is Leodrin, how quickly she steps over her hatred for the Amani for the greater good. But okay, you wanted her to do that. Again, it's not the issue that she does it. It's the issue with the breakneck pace that she does it. And then these final lines where you want to have the conclusion, like the holding hands and going like, oh, would it really be so bad to be in Amani? Like, we've grown so close together. But the development in that regard has just been like, yeah, Leodrin's been there. Zul'Jara did not play an active part in 12-1. Zul'Jara was nearly dying, and we took the role. And I get it, like, you forge bonds in the fight of war, but again, the development between Leodrin and Zul'Jara could have been explored a lot more, in my opinion. But yeah, that's... Again, oh god, the pacing. Like, the big cogwheels, like Azalotov going for the World Soul, it barely moves. And then the smaller stories... like flashes in the pan, like we gotta cleanse the Sunwell, we gotta help the Amani, we gotta do this, gotta do that. And it's like, these things, you got time. We have no rush. You, Blizzard, decide the time that we spend with these storylines. You decide how long we're gonna deal with these topics. You don't have to do this. But this is what they decided, and I don't think we're gonna see a change until the end of the World Soul Saga, because the train is on the tracks, and we got places to be.
Yeah. And that's not a great way to go about storytelling is rushing through stuff.
No, it is not. But if you have like Blizzard there was an interview where they were like, yeah, we can't do nuance in our main storyline. It's like, you can't?
Yeah, like,
oh boy. Well, okay then.
Yeah, that's and you know, that's the thing why some of the side stories and stuff are so good. Because again, everyone will bash like the main story, and everyone focuses. I mean, there's people that don't even play the game that'll be like, there's the main story, but like if you actually play the side stories, a lot of the side quests, there's so many good ones. Like, and it's like insane how many good ones there are, to the point where that's why I always think like, is there some sort of, you know, corporate overseer being like, I don't like this main, like, because they probably only look at the main story. Like people like Microsoft or like all these big, they're not gonna go like, let's take a look at the Tuskar side quest storyline here, really analyze, like, you know. That's what it makes me feel like.
To be a fly on the wall in the writing and planning room, I really wonder how that works. Is it just because the second team that works on these side quests, is it just because they have more freedom? Is it because they have more time? Is it because they don't have to worry about these major plot points that they need to reach? Like, how come, like you said, the quality is so good? And I will say, though, by the way, like, I really still enjoy the Zul'Aman main campaign and all that.
Yeah.
Despite the misgivings, Zul'Aman for me was like a highlight. It's just, yeah, the main campaign, it's compared to the side quest is just massive in quality.
Yeah, I mean, I was even saying, it's funny because they try to hit so many emotions. They'd be like, doesn't it feel sad that like this thing's happening or this character died or whatever? And it's like, dude, I felt more emotion from the Tuskar funeral that we had in Dragonflight and the Earthen like Alzheimer's quest than like any main story we've had. Like, serious.
Have you done the side quest in the Void Storm?
No, because I really don't like the Void Storm.
Oh, there's one side quest. It's one of my favorite quests that they've ever added. Oh, it's phenomenal. But also in Zul'Aman, where there's a side quest where they go about this legend of this Trixie Loa, and they reaffirm that Zul'Jan is right. Yeah, there are phenomenal quests in there to be found. And it's wild how different the quality is. But yeah, it's there. And at least it tells us that there is quality in the writing room.
Yeah.
Like there are talented writers. It's just a matter. I honestly would argue that it's more a matter of mismanagement and misplanning rather than these stories are horrible. But after our talk with you, I will say that you pointed out some things that I didn't even really consider, like the consequences. That I'm like, dang it, that does take a few points away. Must admit.
Yeah. Like, and then that's why I said that one hit me the hardest. I was like, that was such a like easy, like softball it up type of like, you can hit this out of the park. She's like Zuljin with the one arm, but it's, you know, she's different. Like, here we go. And it's just like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Or like Orwena not even registering, like, oh yeah, I just got possessed. It's like, now we
Yeah.
got places to be. And it's like, oh yeah, she should have actually had an effect. Huh.
Yeah. And so that's all I want. Like, I just want more things like that, like consequences that kind of ground us in this world of like, hey, we can't just go around like superheroes and then just like regenerate like nothing happened. Like, our consequences have actions. And I think, again, that's what ties into Warcraft 3 is the story itself of Warcraft 3 is not that much crazier than what we got now, right? It's like cosmic threat. We're dealing with it, like whatever. But it was a lot of times it was just the characters dealing with it had so many hardships they had to go through. And if they made a bad decision, it impacted them for the rest of their lives. And we don't, it feels like we don't get that. Like Zuljara made this decision and it impacted her for a couple of weeks, if that. And now she's like, nah, I'm good again. You know, just like rehabbed it, feeling all right.
Yeah, like in the reaction, like there are moments and consequences to people's actions. Like Illyria often came up in the reaction, so it's definitely a case by case. But yeah, 100% on these ones.
Well, what's the Illyria
And there's
one?
also so Illyria's consequences. Illyria is very much of the mindset of I need to do it by myself when she hunts down Zolotov. So she makes the choice, not the most ideal choice, not the best choice, but she makes the choice to go after it alone. And the consequence in that regard is that she pushes away people, she becomes vulnerable to Zolotov's taunts, and ultimately when she's in the raid in the Voidspire, after spending months in the Voidstorm, that same place that drove Low Fraction absolutely batty, Zolotov's whispers are breaking her down. And what she learned in the past, in like A War Within, is that the people that she loved, they are her reason for diving into the void. They are anchors that are able to keep her down. So the moment that she gets separated from her loved ones, where Zolotov's whispers push her, and her actions, like her choices to go after Zolotov alone, thinking that she needs to do it alone, it ultimately leads to Zolotov stabbing her in the back and unleashing the Naru.
Oh, okay. So it's so now it's like her fault that that's happened because she's been stabbed in the back. Is that what it is? Is that what you mean?
Like she rushes ahead of us in the Voidspire, just up to that final platform where she is taken by Zolotov. Now you can definitely debate and argue, like, was there any escape from Illyria? Would Zolotov have done it in a different way? But ultimately, this is the story that we're given, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, had Illyria given more trust to her teammates, had she not felt the need to rush in headstrong by herself, what would the outcome have been? And in that regard, the consequence of her making this choice is that Zolotov gets her claws on her, finishes the final ritual, stabs her in the back, unleashes the Naru. Trellian is dying, Arator's teleported away, everything is messed up. If Illyria had made different choices along the way, the outcome could have been differently.
So with unleashing the Naru, it's like I'm already. What is the unleashing of the Naru?
Okay, so in the beginning of Midnight, we go into the Voidstorm, and our plan is to stop Zolotov in her tracks, in her plans. And on the planet, we find that Zolotov is corrupting this Naru, and we blow up that Naru to stop her from corrupting the Naru. We then go into the Voidspire raid, where we see that Trellian is still doing like his light zealotry, right? But his love for his family is able to keep him grounded. And we see that Illyria is very dead set on taking Zolotov down because she has a big chip on her shoulder for Khadgar, for Dalaran, for the Locust Walker that was eaten. Again, on this planet, the Voidstorm, Illyria has been stuck there for 2 months hunting Zolotov alone. In the War Within, Zolotov are constantly whispering to her, trying to push her, trying to use her weak spots. And until we kill like the second to last boss, there's Zolotov taunting Illyria like, ha 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 ha, I am the bad guy, you will never stop me. To which Illyria makes the choice, jumps through the portal, and we go like, Illyria, don't! And then we follow after her, and we find Illyria in the clutches of a Zolotov. Arator and Trellian and Void Wielder guy, not Romaf, but Umbric, right? Umbric,
Mhm.
they're trapped in place, and we need to step up and we need to take care of business. And that's what I mean with these choices made. Like if Valyria hadn't rushed in and tried to take Zolotov down herself, the consequence of her actions are everything that follows after. Now, would I say that it's full on Illyria's fault, like she shouldn't have done this? No, that's a little bit victim blaming there. But had she made a different choice, the outcome would have been differently.
I think my issue with that is like, so what did she lose from doing this then? Like what did Illyria lose?
She lost her partners to fight against Zolotov, and with her stuck in Zolotov's claws, the whole last fight plays out. So Zolotov is pumping void into her. She is making Illyria fight us, and ultimately, we fail at stopping Zolotov. So Zolotov takes the dagger, she stabs Illyria, and out comes the Naru. So Illyria loses her life. Trevelyan goes down as well. We don't know their fate. I presume that we're going to see them mind control, but either way, not a good fate. The Sunwell gets blasted with void magics, and in essence, we lose the Void Spire raid. Zolotov won for 2 weeks. She had won that raid. So in essence, what I'm saying is that Illyria, her weak spots that Zolotov exploited, her actions, led to us losing the Void Spire raid.
Okay. So Illyria's dead right now.
Potentially. We don't know their fate. My assumption is that we're going to find...
This is this is exactly hitting the point. I'm like, dude, so we've got Illyria died. This is all whatever. If she comes back and she's like, yo, what's up? I'm good. Just like whatever. Like, that's what I mean. There is no reason for me to believe that won't happen. Because it feels like that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
So it's just like, is it like a true consequence? Because like in my mind, I was like, you know what? Illyria did this thing. She messed up. She's dead. She's gone. That's it. She's a ghost over our shoulder now that protects us like the Yamani, right? But then she's...
I mean, as long as you listen to the right ghost. Like in essence, if we did not have Sylvanas Deus Ex Machina popping out of the portal, the consequence would have been Zolotov wins.
I see.
Full on. We would have lost the Sunwell. But okay, Sylvana showed up and saved the day. We took action and saved the day. Will Illyria and Trevelyan come back? I'm 99% certain that we will see them back in one shape, way, or form. But the way that we're going to see them back is going to be the entire thing. Yes, I will spit on this storyline if Illyria and Trevelyan are fine. And like, oh, champion, good for catching up. But what I'm hoping to see, and again, it's going to be a cool scenario, so it's probably not going to happen. But I'm hoping to see full-on Light Indulged Trevelyan and full-on Void Indulged Illyria, but they're like mind-controlled puppets that Zolotov controls. Think Anduin back in the Shadowlands where you had to fight Anduin. That is what I would like to see. And that Arator is forced to take down his parents. I assume that Illyria is going to survive and Trevelyan's full-on going to die, but imagine if they both are actually slain. They're like, son, take us out, save the day. And Arator is like, I don't want to kill you, mom and dad, I love you. We love you too, son, and with the power of our love, you must strike us down. That would be, the dialogue's really lame that I'm giving right now, but Arator being forced to murder his parents would be sick.
Dude, that's and that ties back to that thing I brought up at the start, where I was like, Xalatath making you choose between the two or kill both. Like,
right?
It's just like that. Like, he has to kill his parents.
Yeah.
And like, you know what?
So it will never happen.
Yeah, and so it'll never happen.
But that would be sick, right?
Yeah. No, that would be sick. And that's tying back into the consequences. Because again, it's like the whole point I make with consequences is it's like a real life grounded reality thing where people... I think a lot of people enjoy stories that mimic like our own lives. Like the hero's journey is essentially just we as people throughout our lives grow and change. And whatever, that's really what a hero's journey is. It's like, why even go on the journey if like the character doesn't change? And so it's like, it almost feels that way at times where they go on a journey, but nothing really changes them. It's like in Lord of the Rings, if you had Frodo and Sam, like by the end of that journey, they have like PTSD. They're messed up. Like they go back to the Shire and like it's all bad. Like, you know what I mean? And now it's like they could have made it where it's like, hey, they were gonna get killed by some trolls and they were fine. And then Sauron was looking the other way and they just brought it in and went like, whoop, threw the ring in the fire. We're good. And it's like, hooray, we're done. Like there's no growth there. I feel like that's what happens when you don't have like actual consequences. Is you don't get that much of a growth or like as powerful of a growth as you could have.
It's also a wee bit modern writing, I would say, where it's almost like a fear to write a character with actual flaws and mistakes and that falls and stumbles. No. It's not that. It's from zero to hero, and they can't do anything wrong. They always know the right answers. They are naive, but they will lead the troops into battle. They don't know everything, but they always make the right call. They will tell the older generation what is what, even though they have no clue what the older generation went through and how to deal with these situations. Yeah, tropes. And that kind of writing really sucks. And going back to the consequence, again, it very much comes down to individual storylines. Take, for example, Zul'Jara. We spoke about it earlier. What if she had not chosen to let her brother go? Her consequences for being so soft on him is 12.1. And I also had a comment from somebody who spoke about how Malfurion let Illidan go in Warcraft 3 to go into Outlands. And they describe this as a character flaw, whereas, it's Malfurion, it's a softer spot for his brother. But at the same time, you could also argue that that was only written in there because for the story, we needed Illidan to go to Outlands. Because in essence, it goes against whatever they've established for Malfurion so far. He was very much against releasing Illidan. He was very much against his brother. So how come, when the portal opens up, he makes the decision to let his brother go? Now, again, on the other end, you could argue, that's the journey they went through in Warcraft 3. They worked together to save Tyrande, and so he had a change of heart, he had a change of mind, drove a path, and now he makes a different decision. And that is something that's you would love to see in your storytelling, because that is how you realistically can follow A to B to C and be like, oh yeah, okay, it's not the most ideal choice, but I can see why they're making it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there's a lot of things they could improve upon.
Oh yeah. And one thing that I did feel like I was doing a lot in the reaction was excusing WoW because it was an MMORPG.
Right.
And going through it more and more and listening to your counter reaction as well is like you make a lot of fair points where it's like, where are the consequences? Why can't you do this? And while at the end of the day, there will always be a victory, we always have the new expansion in our classes to play. The road leading there can be full on trapped and destroyed, and you can do a lot. It's just a matter of what kind of story do you want to tell and how much do you want to invest. Now, there are things that I would say development-wise you need to think about. Like they can't do a cataclysm every single expansion.
Right.
But that's about it. They can do individual destructions.
Yeah, and I think the way they can go about it too, even like when you had Mist of Pandaria or the Dragon Isles, like those are kind of their own, self-contained stories in a way. Like they still kind of tied into other stuff, and I think a lot of people enjoyed those like a decent amount, because I saw some people being like, well, Firac or whatever his name is kind of like what you're talking about, and I was like, yeah, he was pretty cool. Yeah. I like that. Or there's another guy, maybe who's like dragging out it's not Firac, who's another one?
Iridacron.
Yeah, it might have been him. Or he's like, because they're like, oh, he's still out there or something like that. But
Iridacron. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's like a lot of different ways they can go from here. Like they've got options.
Yeah, and Dragonflight is a good example as to how you can tell a story. Like they told the story with Firak and what he wanted to do, and in the background they did the mystery storytelling with an Iridacron and kind of the setup for Zalatoth and the Dark Heart. You can do both. It's just when you make your mystery storytelling the primal focus where you can run into the trouble of a World Soul Saga. And where they're gonna go from here, I am so curious where they're gonna go from here. Like, yeah, we're gonna go to the World Soul, but then what? Like, the Return of the Titans? What is that gonna mean?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. But we've been this might be the longest lore thing we've ever done. This is like over 2 hours.
You showed up. Yeah, you wanted to wait with recording with your notes. We have moved in from, Noble, I'm just gonna ask you about the story. I'm gonna ask you questions to, nah, I got takes, I got opinions, I got notes. I am so over the moon that you got so much more invested. It's so cool.
Yeah. No, it's and honestly, it's all because I replayed Warcraft 3. So I was just kind of, it made me kind of get more into the lore and want to like understand it more. So that's why even when I made that video, I tried to like emphasize, like, listen, I'm gonna give some opinions, but like really, I don't know what I'm talking about, which is why I wanted you to help me out with a lot of that. Because there's people be like, Crendor didn't even realize that the thing in the, and I'm like, I don't know, because it's hard to learn about the lore because I need to spend like a year learning it. So yeah.
And people in comments are mean anyways. Oh god, man. I saw your video of your reaction. I was reading comments. It was like 2 in the morning during convention. I was like, oh my god, am I beefy with Crendor? There's messages here. People are hating me. And the next morning I'm listening to your reaction and it's like, it's the most chill Crendor reaction ever. We're like agreeing on 90% of this. Like, what?
Yeah. If any, we're having like the most like normal debate back and forth of just like, your opinion is correct and I agree with that point. However, this point I think you misunderstood, and you're like, ah, yes, very well. And they're just like, wow, they're really going at it.
Right? And it's like this whole walking on eggshells. And I know it's the status of the internet and it's either you're with us or you're against us. But honestly, variety in opinions is the spice of life. And it's interesting to talk about things and think differently about things rather than going like, yep, that's true. Like it's interesting to come at things from different points of view.
Yeah.
And again, the reason why your video took off so well is because you made some really, really good points, and I think people resonated with it. So yeah, again, don't listen to those comments. Like, your opinion is really, really solid.
Well, thank you. But let's just wrap it up here before we hit 3 hours going on.
Yes.
But you know, we'll meet up again at the end of this expansion or the start of the next one. Something we'll do something there. But I'm gonna try to keep paying attention. You know, I'm gonna try to keep taking notes.
You can tell me the lore. Yeah. Next time I'll just be like, Crendor, I haven't played in a while. Catch me up.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over very well. There's some guys like doing stuff.
Honestly, though, your retelling of the lore is incredible. I love it.
I actually did want to make like a little type of series where I take a lot of side quests in the game and summarize them. I was gonna call it like lore for dummies or like something like that.
Please do. There's such value in it. Please do.
Yeah, because I was like, other people do it, but they just kind of read the like normal wiki entries or everything. I just want to be like, so there's like this mage guy and he's just like, man, this shit sucks. I'm gonna go get a goblin, and the goblin's like, what do you want? Like that type of thing. Or it just
Didn't you do that with paint once upon a time? Didn't you make like videos with paint?
Oh, I did a lot of things with paint. My old machinimas, if there was a scene I couldn't film, I would just draw it in paint and slap it in there.
Yeah, that's fine. Right, gotcha.
Yeah. But what if anyone wants a further deep dive into the lore, where could they go to learn those things?
Right, please come check me out over at youtube.com/noble87, where I have a 10-year catalog of all stories World of Warcraft related. I also do Twitch, where I stream and I talk lore from the top of my head, and let me tell you, that's a little bit more unhinged. That's on twitch.tv/noble87. I have an Instagram where I post about my life and reels. I got a TikTok where I post reels. I got a Discord. I got a YouTube already talked about, and that is me.
Just search Noble87. You'll probably find it all. I'll link in the description to your YouTube channel. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for having this intense debate, intense hatred-filled debate that we just went through.
Crendor and I are beefing hard right now.
We're beefing hard. And hopefully when we meet up next time, we'll be like, hey, you know what? They actually did a good job putting that all together at the end.
Oh, you know? Blizzard listens and just like, oh yeah, we're going to steer him, we're going to do it differently. That would be so cool.
That would be great. But I doubt that'll happen. But
we gotta have faith. Gotta have hope.
Gotta have faith.
Gotta have ghosts over their shoulders that whisper all the right things.
Gotta have those ghosts, right? Looking over, watching out for us. So thanks for listening to this 2-hour and some rant about lore. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll put some other videos up there, or you can go check out Noble. And I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.